Chapter 21:33. Golden Hornet. I know. I came back this time to destroy the Dark Illusion sect. Is there a problem? Zhuowen said indifferently. Guo Qianrui looked at Zhuowen like she was looking at an idiot. The Dark Illusion sect was one of the top 10 sects in the starfield. Although it had suffered heavy losses because of Zhuowen. But a centipede died but did not fall down. After all, the Dark Illusion sect was once a colossus. Even if it had suffered heavy losses back then, it was still not something that ordinary forces could compare to. Guo Qianrui only found it extremely laughable that Zhuowen wanted to destroy the Dark Illusion sect with just these few people. Manager Guo, take me to see your president. Back then, when the Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence was auctioned here, I still haven't received my reward. Zhuowen ignored the sarcasm in Guo Qianrui's eyes and said indifferently. Guo Qianrui's beautiful eyes flickered before she finally nodded and said, "Come with me. The president is in the inner room, but only you need to go in. These 6 people can stay outside." Di Ling frowned slightly. Just as he was about to speak, Zhuowen stopped him and said, "Okay, lead the way." Entering the inner room, Guo Qianrui made many turns and finally entered a rather secret room. She opened the door and said, "President is in here. You can go in yourself." Zhuowen's eyes were cold as he looked coldly at Guo Qianrui and said, "Manager Guo, do you think this Zhuo is an idiot?" Guo Qianrui's beautiful eyes shrank as she turned her head and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't know, then forget it. I'll wait here. If the president of your Great Fortune Trading Company doesn't come in half an incense stick's time, then your Great Fortune Trading Company doesn't need to exist anymore." Speaking of this, the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes seemed to materialize and poured into Guo Qianrui's spirit, causing her to pale with fright. By the time Guo Qianrui regained her senses, Zhuowen had already entered the room and closed the door. Guo Qianrui's pretty face was gloomy as she muttered in a low voice, "This Zhuowen has only been gone for a little over 10 years, how did his strength increase so quickly? However, since you've entered this room, you're under the control of me and the manager. Even if you're a Void Sky 7 Steps cultivator, you won't be able to escape the traps in this room." With that, Guo Qianrui left the room. After a few turns, she entered another room. In a dim room, an old man sat quietly. In front of the old man was a screen of light. On the screen of light was another room. In this room, Zhuowen was sitting quietly. "President, are you really going to kill this Zhuowen?" Guo Qianrui asked worriedly. The cultivators he brought with him this time are not to be underestimated. This old man was the president of Hongyun Trading Company, Zhong Xingyan. His eyes were cold as he said, "This boy is just a Void Sky 4 Steps cultivator. What kind of subordinates can he bring with him? Right now, the entire starfield is looking for this boy. As long as I kill him and hand over his head, I think the 8 great sects will be happy to auction off this boy's head and the Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence from him, right?" Speaking of this, Zhong Xingyan's eyes were filled with fanaticism. "I hope so," Guo Qianrui said uneasily. Zhuowen sat quietly on the sofa, sneering in his heart. He knew what Zhong Xingyan was planning. However, I'll give Zhong Xingyan a chance. As long as Zhong Xingyan hands over the Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence, Zhuowen will let bygones be bygones. Of course, if Zhong Xingyan tries to break the contract, Zhuowen can't be blamed for being ruthless. Su. Suddenly, the room that Zhuowen was in was filled with densely packed blue rays of light. The blue light formed an extremely mysterious trajectory in the air and finally formed a wonderful pattern. A terrifying aura that could shake heaven and earth suddenly pressed down. Zhuowen only felt an extremely strong pressure on his body, making it difficult for him to move. "A level 7 array? Do you think you can capture me, Zhuowen, with just a mere level 7 formation? Zhong Xingyan, where do you get your confidence from?" Zhuowen whispered mockingly. Immediately, his right hand pointed at the void and quickly changed hand seals. At the same time, he took out 81 formation discs, which floated above his head. The tremendous consciousness of his soul surged out, instantly causing the level 7 formation to tremble. Through the gap between the shaking of the array, Zhuowen immediately found a flaw in the array. Immediately, the 81 array discs all fell on the floor, forming a terrifying invisible hurricane. Rumble. After a while, the blue light in the room collapsed inch by inch and was annihilated into nothingness. What? How did he do it? He actually broke the level 7 array that this old man has carefully prepared. In another room, Zhong Xingyan turned pale with fright and stared at the light screen in front of him. Guo Qianrui's beautiful face also turned pale. President, that Zhuowen seems to be looking at us. Guo Qianrui stretched out her trembling hand and pointed at the light screen in front of them. Zhong Xingyan also looked over and saw Zhuowen grinning at him. That grin was full of killing intent and coldness, causing Zhong Xingyan to tremble and feel a sense of fear. How could this guy break the level 7 array? This. Zhong Xingyan's pupils constricted and he couldn't help but stand up. Looking at the grinning Zhuowen on the light screen, he felt a chill in his heart. President, this Zhuowen is not simple. What should we do now? Guo Qianrui also said with fear in her heart. Zhong Xingyan's eyes flickered and finally showed a decisive look. He said, "Kill, this guy must be killed." Zhong Xingyan knew very well that Zhuowen's life was too valuable. Once he could get Zhuowen's head, Yu Wuxi of the Serene Mirage sect would be more than happy to buy it from him at a high price. But, the level 7 array has been broken, Guo Qianrui said hesitantly. What are you afraid of? That room doesn't only have a level 7 array, there are also golden gnawing wasps. I don't believe it can withstand the attack of the golden gnawing wasps this time. Zhong Xingyan's eyes showed a crazed look. Immediately, he took out a jade talisman and crushed it. Immediately, many gaps appeared in the room in the light screen in front of him. Wasps that seemed to be plated with gold rushed out from the gaps. Moreover, each of the wasps was as hard as iron. The golden light that reflected from them made Zhuowen's eyes narrow and reveal a serious look. It's actually golden gnawing wasps. This Zhong Xingyan is really generous. Chapter 2134. You reap what you sow. In terms of individual strength, the golden gnawing wasps weren't very strong. Ordinary 4th stage void sky cultivators could easily kill them. However, the golden gnawing wasps were social creatures and would never attack alone. Once they attacked, they would attack in the millions or even tens of millions. Zhuowen had heard of a terrifying swarm of golden gnawing wasps that numbered in the hundreds of millions in the northern universe of the Great Brahma domain. Wherever they passed, they would cover the sky like a swarm of locusts. It was a disaster in the northern universe. Many forces were wiped out by the golden gnawing wasps and turned into ruins. Even 7th stage void sky cultivators lost their lives to the golden gnawing wasps that numbered in the hundreds of millions. In the end, 3 of the 10 great sects in the northern universe, the Half Moon Hall, the White Jade Pavilion, and the Flower Butterfly Valley, worked together to stop the golden gnawing wasps. However, the 3 great sects also suffered heavy losses during that era and were almost exterminated. From this, one could see how terrifying the golden gnawing wasps were. This time, Zhong Xingyan had released more than 1 million golden gnawing wasps. This many wasps was enough to kill a 6th stage void sky cultivator. Zhong Xingyan believed that if he was in that room and faced so many golden gnawing wasps, he wouldn't be able to escape death. Needless to say, Zhuowen's cultivation was only at the 4th stage of the void sky realm. Zhuo silently looked at the swarm of golden gnawing bees around him, but the corners of his mouth revealed a mocking smile. If it were anything else, Zhuowen wouldn't be able to do anything. However, Zhong Xingyan's trump card was the golden gnawing wasps. One had to know that the golden gnawing wasps were also cosmic beasts, and Zhuowen's main body was Devour, the strongest race in the universe. It could be said that it was the supreme king of cosmic beasts. In front of Devour, these golden gnawing wasps were nothing. Thinking of this, Zhuowen summoned the black-clothed Zhuowen. The black-clothed Zhuowen's body was covered in demonic mist. His scarlet eyes looked through the demonic mist and indifferently looked at the swarm of golden gnawing wasps. Roar! The black-clothed Zhuowen suddenly roared, and the demonic fog around him rolled wantonly, forming the shadow of an incomparably huge monster behind him. The bloodthirsty golden mole bees stopped in their tracks when they heard the terrifying roar. Their eyes were filled with fear. The black-robed Zhuowen roared again, a roar that shook heaven and earth. Ghosts and gods trembled, and cracks spread out across the surface of the room. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The swarm of golden gnawing bees shivered and prostrated themselves on the ground, showing their allegiance. They did not dare to move forward. Looks like Zhong Xingyan doesn't have much sincerity. You can't blame me then. Zhuoan and the black-clothed Zhuoan walked to the door side by side. With a punch, the door shattered. Then, they leisurely left the room. The swarm of golden gnawing bees followed closely behind them, as if they were on standby. Inside the secret room, Zhong Xingyan was dumbfounded. He only saw the black-clothed doppelganger summoned by Zhuoan, and with a roar, the swarm of golden gnawing bees stopped in their tracks. With another roar, the golden gnawing bees expressed their submission. They actually obeyed Zhuowen's orders. This was beyond his expectations. How did this guy do it? Zhong Xingyan muttered to himself in a daze. President, let's leave quickly. That Zhuoan seems to be coming towards us. Guo Qianrui said fearfully. Yes. Let's go, we can't stay here any longer. This kid is too strong. We have to leave and tell the 10 major sects that this kid is back. When the time comes, the 10 major sects will take care of him. Zhong Xingyan quickly reacted and said. Then, he hurriedly led Guo Qianrui out of the door. However, the moment Zhong Xingyan opened the door, a foot mercilessly stepped on his chest. Zhong Xingyan was caught off guard, and with a muffled groan, he retreated several steps back. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at the white-clothed youth at the door. Zhong Xingyan opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, the swarm of golden gnawing bees behind Zhuoan flew towards Zhong Xingyan like raindrops. Zhong Xingyan tried to resist, but he found that the golden gnawing bees were too terrifying. His attacks were all swallowed up by the golden gnawing bees, and he could only barely stand on the spot and resist the golden gnawing bees. Guo Qianrui was so scared that she collapsed on the ground not far away. She could only watch helplessly as Zhong Xingyan resisted the golden gnawing bees. President Zhong, this is called reaping what you sow. Didn't I say it before? I have no enmity with your great fortune trading company. This time, I came back to collect the reward for the heavenly domain star essence. Is this how you treat a guest? Zhuoan leaned against the wall and said unhurriedly. The black-clothed Zhuoan stood not far away, controlling the golden gnawing bees with Devour's powerful aura. Little friend Zhuoan, this old man was just testing you. After all, you are wanted by the outside world. This old man was afraid that your strength wasn't enough, so he wanted to test your depth. This way, this old man can help you. You have wronged a good person. Zhong Xingyan lied without batting an eyelid. He didn't realize how big of a loophole there was in his words. Oh, so that's how it is. Then, how about I also test President Zhong's depth? Let's see if President Zhong can withstand the attacks of the golden gnawing bees. If you can, we will let bygones be bygones. If you can't, I think you know the consequences. Zhuoan sneered, but Zhong Xingyan's expression changed greatly. The terror of 1,000,000 golden gnawing bees was no joke. Although Zhong Xingyan's strength wasn't bad, he was afraid that his life would be in danger under the attacks of so many golden gnawing bees. That's not it. Little friend Zhuo, you should just. Zhong Xingyan wanted to beg for mercy, but unfortunately, Zhuoan didn't care about Zhong Xingyan. Instead, he formed a purple sword with his right hand and slashed out. The purple sword chi pierced through the golden gnawing bees and struck Zhong Xingyan's chest. Poochie. Zhong Xingyan was caught off guard and was instantly hit by the sword chi. His face turned pale and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. The golden gnawing bees' attacks were even more intense, causing Zhong Xingyan's situation to deteriorate even more. Next, I will slash out with my sword every time you speak. You can say whatever you want, Zhuoan said. Zhong Xingyan's body trembled and he didn't say anything else. He just silently resisted the attacks of the golden gnawing bees. As time passed, Zhong Xingyan's strength decreased. Although the number of golden gnawing bees decreased, their attacks became fiercer. Zhong Xingyan subconsciously wanted to beg for mercy, but he immediately shut his mouth when he remembered what Zhuoan had said. Unfortunately, Zhong Xingyan was still a step too late. A purple sword chi suddenly blasted over and smashed into his chest, causing a large amount of blood to splatter out. Chapter 2135. Revenge R. When Guo Qianrui saw this scene, she cried out in fear. She hugged her knees with both hands and looked at Zhuo Wen, begging for mercy. Zhuo Wen, please let me live. It wasn't my idea to scheme against you. It was the president who asked me to do it. I was just following orders. If I wanted to kill you, I would have done so long ago. Zhong Xingyan is already dead, so you should hand over the reward from the auction of the heavenly domain star essence, Zhuowen said. This was why Zhuowen did not kill Guo Qianrui. Yes, yes, yes. I will hand over your reward right away. I can even give you the entire Hongyun Trading Company. Guo Qianrui sighed and hurriedly said, afraid that Zhuowen would go back on his word and kill her. Guo Qianrui led Zhuowen and took away most of the resources and god stones of the Hongyun Trading Company. Then, she respectfully sent Zhuowen out of the room. Outside the hall of the Hongyun Trading Company, Di Ling and the other 5 stood silently. Seeing Zhuowen come out, they all came up to greet him. Master, are you all right? Di Ling asked in a low voice. I'm fine. The debt collection went very smoothly. Next, it's time for my revenge. Let's go to the dim mirage sect. Zhuowen's eyes suddenly became much sharper. Di Ling and the other 5 nodded and followed Zhuowen out of the Hongyun Trading Company. Guo Qianrui watched Zhuowen's flying ship gradually disappear. She breathed a sigh of relief and murmured in a low voice, this time, Zhuowen really came prepared. It seems that there will be an unprecedented collision with the dim mirage sect. Streams of light flowed in and out of the huge star continent where the dim mirage sect was located. In the central area of the star continent, there was a dense cluster of buildings. This cluster of buildings was the territory of the dim mirage sect. At this moment, in front of the magnificent mountain gate of the dim mirage sect, an old man in his 60s was walking leisurely. In his right hand, he was carrying a grey-robed old man with broken limbs. The cultivator guarding the mountain gate sensed that something was wrong and immediately shouted, "Who are you? State your name." This old man in his 60s was naturally Zhong Zhiqing, who was sent by Zhuowen. Zhong Zhiqing glanced at the 2 cultivators indifferently. With a wave of his right hand, he tossed the grey-robed old man to them. It's Elder Huaxie. You actually killed him? The 2 guards recognized the dying old man at a glance and couldn't help but growl angrily. At the same time, they reached out to catch Elder Huaxie. Bang! Unfortunately, Zhong Zhiqing's strength was extremely great. The moment the 2 guards touched the grey-robed elder, their hands were broken and bent. They flew backwards in an extremely sorry state and smashed onto the steps behind the mountain gate. Someone asked me to tell you that Zhuowen has returned. The Dark Mirage sect should prepare to be destroyed. Zhong Zhiqing's voice was like thunder. Strengthened by his divine power, his voice immediately filled the entire star where the Dark Mirage sect resided. All the cultivators on the star heard him clearly. What? Is it Zhuowen? Is it that Zhuowen who took first place in the Galactic Grand Tournament of the Middle Universe and toyed with the sect masters of the 8 great sects? If what this person said is true, then Zhuowen really doesn't know what's good for him. The Dark Mirage sect has an 8th ascension ancestor like Yu Wuxi, and yet he dares to say something as arrogant as destroying the sect. Zhong Zhiqing's words shocked the entire Dark Mirage sect and the entire continent. Of course, they weren't shocked that Zhuowen truly had the ability to destroy the sect, but that Zhuowen didn't know what was good for him. No one believed that Zhuowen had the strength to destroy the Dark Mirage sect, or perhaps it was simply a fool's dream. Zhuowen had been able to escape the star domain by luck and avoid Yu Wuxi's pursuit. For many cultivators, this was the greatest fortune of all. But now, this Zhuowen actually dared to return and kill the people of the Dark Mirage sect as soon as he returned, even saying that he would destroy the sect. He was simply arrogant to the extreme. With that, Zhong Zhiqing did not linger. He took a step forward with his right foot and left the Dark Mirage sect. Not long after Zhong Zhiqing left, the gates of the Dark Mirage sect opened. The sect master of the Dark Mirage sect, Yu Yewei, led a group of experts out of the sect and saw the 2 guards who had been beaten to the ground and the grey-robed old man whose limbs had been severed. Grey Pavilion? Wasn't he sent to manage the Dark Mirage House by me? Go investigate what happened to the Dark Mirage House. Yu Yewei's eyes were dark as a bad feeling rose in his heart. A cultivator behind Yu Yewei replied before disappearing on the spot. Not long after, the cultivator returned and said gravely, Sect Master, the Dark Mirage House has been destroyed. The disciples of the Dark Mirage sect on the heaven-receiving rock have all been annihilated. Yu Yewei slowly clenched his fists. He knew that this was all Zhuowen's doing. Little bastard, after disappearing for more than 10 years, you're finally willing to show yourself. I'd like to see if you've improved in the past 10 years. Yu Yewei's eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at the starry sky. He knew that since the old man in his 60s had said those words, it meant that Zhuowen was planning to come to the Dark Mirage sect. As long as Zhuowen dared to come to the Dark Mirage sect, Yu Yewei would make it impossible for Zhuowen to return. Sect Master, do you think that Zhuowen is setting a trap for us? That the words he sent out just now, is it just a bluff and he won't come at all? An old man beside Yu Yewei asked in a low voice. Yu Yewei snorted coldly. Let the disciples of the sect prepare first. That Zhuowen is very cunning and we have to guard against him. Of course, if that Zhuowen really doesn't come, we'll send out disciples to find him. We'll find that little bastard even if we have to turn the world upside down. The grudge between Yu Yewei and Zhuowen was not small. Zhuowen had killed Yu Yewei's son, Yu Tongying, during the Galactic Grand Tournament. If it were not for the special circumstances back then, Yu Yewei would have killed Zhuowen with a single palm strike. It could be said that Yu Yewei wanted nothing more than for Zhuowen to die without a burial place. Now that he saw Zhuowen being so arrogant and bullying the Dark Mirage sect, how could Yu Yewei tolerate this? Should we inform the Patriarch about this? The old man reminded again. Yu Yewei waved his hand. Zhuowen is just a nobody. It's not enough to alarm the Patriarch. The Patriarch is in seclusion now, so it's best not to disturb him. While the Dark Mirage sect was getting ready and on high alert, Zhuowen's flying ship was already halfway there. Zhong Ziqing constantly flashed through the pitch-black space. Afterwards, he saw an extremely familiar flying ship in front of him. He hurriedly took out his communication jade talisman to send a message. A while later, the flying ship stopped beside Zhong Ziqing and the side hatch opened. Zhong Ziqing entered the flying ship and arrived behind Zhuowen in the control room. He bowed respectfully and said, Master, I've already done everything you asked me to do. Zhuowen nodded. That's right. The Dark Mirage sect should be preparing for battle right now. However, I don't think the Dark Mirage sect will treat me so seriously. After all, my cultivation back then was not very high. Over a decade is not a long time. Yu Yewei definitely thinks that it's impossible for my cultivation to increase by much. He thinks that I'll be courting death if I go over. Chapter 2136. Instant kill. The flying ship was extremely fast, landing near the demonic illusion sect very quickly. Zhuowen laid down a shielding formation on the surface of the flying ship, causing it to become abnormally hidden, preventing others from discovering it. Master, will your plan really work? I think it's too dangerous, the Emperor Spirit said rather worriedly. Zhuowen waved his hand. How can one catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? As for the final outcome, it'll still be up to you, Senior Wuqing. The short old man Wuqing snorted rather unhappily. Kid, you're really too cunning. Back then, we agreed that you could not order me around, and my freedom was not restricted by you. I was only responsible for protecting you. Senior Wuqing, you're exaggerating. This isn't an order, but a request. With Senior's skill in formations, it's more than enough to kill you Wu Sai if you cooperate with the 5 of you. Zhuowen chuckled. Old Wuqing's expression was not pleasant as he said, only this once. Zhuowen did not mind. With a stomp of his right foot, he turned into a streak of light and disappeared. At this moment, the demonic illusion sect was heavily guarded. All the disciples of the demonic illusion sect acted like they were facing a great enemy, wielding god artifacts as killing intent filled their eyes. The news of Zhuowen's arrival had already spread throughout the demonic illusion sect. Most of the current disciples of the demonic illusion sect were newly recruited over the past decade or so. Most of the older disciples had been killed over a decade ago when Zhuoan had caused a ruckus in the demonic illusion sect. Less than a tenth of them remained. It was precisely because of what had happened back then that the rumors of Zhuoan being a demon circulated among the disciples of the demonic illusion sect, becoming more and more exaggerated as the rumors spread. It was precisely because of these rumors that the disciples of the demonic illusion sect were already afraid of Zhuoan even before battle, even though they had never seen him before. Swish. Suddenly, a streak of light shot towards the demonic illusion sect, finally stopping at the entrance of the demonic illusion sect, revealing a young man in clothes whiter than snow. Today, I, Zhuoan, have come to exterminate the sect. If there are any disciples of the dim mirage sect who do not wish to die, immediately swear to leave the dim mirage sect. Otherwise, do not blame Zhuoan for being merciless later. Before anyone could react, Zhuoan had already started talking to himself. His voice was loud and clear, and it was deafening. This person is Zhuoan. He actually came here alone to throw away his life. Where did he get the courage? Perhaps he has given up on himself. This Zhuoan's aura is not very strong, probably at the 4th or 5th level of the illusory sky realm. While this kind of cultivation is not bad, in front of the dark mirage sect, is it not like an ant trying to shake a tree? On the road, everyone's gazes gathered on Zhuoan. Their expressions were very similar, like they were looking at an idiot as they silently stared at Zhuoan's figure hovering in the air. A sinister smile appeared on Yu Yewei's lips. Just as he was about to act, the old man beside him shot out first, "Sect Master, there's no need for you to act against an ant like this. This old man can capture him with a single move." Yu Yewei hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Sure, but don't kill him by accident. I want him alive. When the time comes, I want him to regret being born in this world. I want him to beg for death." The old man grinned, his white hair fluttering in the wind. He was extremely dashing. Isn't this the 5th elder of the dim mirage sect? He's an expert at the 5th level of the illusory sky realm, ranked 5th in the group of elders of the dim mirage sect. His strength is extraordinary. With the 5th elder taking action, Zhuoan will probably be dealt with. Everyone nodded to themselves. They felt that Zhuoan coming to the dim mirage sect was just a farce. He was just seeking his own death. There was no suspense about the outcome at all. "Zhuoan, I really don't know where you get the courage to come to the dim mirage sect to die. However, I won't kill you for now. Obediently allow yourself to be captured." The smile on the 5th elder's lips grew wider and wider. His right hand formed a claw as divine power surged, forming a huge azure python that completely enveloped Zhuoan. Seeing Zhuoan's figure disappear, the smile on the 5th elder's lips grew wider and wider. Rumble. Suddenly, the enormous green python let out a blood-curdling shriek and split into pieces. Afterwards, a huge violet sword chi shot out of the azure python like a violet moon. Spurt. The sword chi was so fast that the 5th elder did not even have time to react before he was cleaved into two. Blood splattered everywhere. In an instant, the entire dim mirage sect descended into a strange silence. When Zhuoan insta-killed the 5th elder of the dim mirage sect, all the cultivators of the dim mirage sect fell into a daze. This was especially so for the disciples of the dim mirage sect. Originally, there were all sorts of evil rumors about Zhuoan in the dim mirage sect. Now that they saw Zhuoan insta-kill the 5th elder of the dim mirage sect, they were all terrified and in an uproar. It was precisely because Zhuoan had insta-killed the 5th elder that he had intimidated everyone present, causing many cultivators to not dare to act rashly. Zhuoan stood in the air, looking down at the dim mirage sect as he continued, "I've said before that I've come to destroy the sect today. Those who are unrelated or do not wish to die had best leave the dim mirage sect as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the sword has no eyes later, don't blame me if you die." The surroundings were in an uproar. Although Zhuoan's move earlier was indeed stunning, that was only the 5th elder of the dim mirage sect. It must be known that there were 4 people stronger than the 5th elder, and the sect master, Yu Yewei, was even stronger, already at the 7th level of the void sky realm. Apart from that, The Dim Mirage sect also had a terrifying ancestor-level expert like Yu Wuxi who was at the 8th level of the Void Sky realm. Without a doubt, the Dim Mirage sect's foundation was so deep that it was definitely not something that a single cultivator could destroy alone. Moreover, this lone cultivator's cultivation was only at the 4th level of the Void Sky realm. That was even more impossible. Go, kill this Juoan. I, Yu Yewei, promise that whoever kills this Juoan will be heavily rewarded and will not be mistreated. However, if anyone dares to back out, I'll let them have a taste of a fate worse than death. Yu Yewei's deep voice slowly spread through the Dim Mirage sect. Whoosh! Yu Yewei's words immediately caused an uproar in the Dim Mirage sect, triggering the frenzy of all the Dim Mirage sect disciples. Many Dim Mirage sect disciples used their divine artifacts and abilities, attacking Juoan mercilessly. At this moment, Juoan didn't hold back in the slightest. 48 golden devil swords were withdrawn, causing a strange vortex of killing intent to sweep out in midair, and it suddenly flashed out like a terrifying tornado that wantonly reaped the lives of the surrounding cultivators. Blood rained down like raindrops, gathering into a blood-red river around Juoan, looking extremely bizarre. Chapter 2137. Coming to destroy the sect. There were just too many demonic illusion sect disciples. They swarmed over like locusts, completely engulfing Juoan. Like a dark cloud, the area Juoan was in became extremely gloomy. While the no-beginning demon golden swords were extremely fast, they were still unable to keep up with the speed of the demonic illusion sect disciples rushing to their deaths. Many demonic illusion sect disciples broke through the defenses of the no-beginning demon golden swords and directly attacked Juoan, while Juoan could only use the purple swords in his hands to block the attacks that slipped through the net. Sect Master, this kid is really strong. He's still so tenacious despite being surrounded by so many disciples. Yu Yewei was surrounded by 4 old men. They were the elders of the demonic illusion sect. There had originally been a 5th elder, but he had been instantly killed by Juoan, leaving only 4 people. The 4 of you go together and take down that Juoan, Yu Yewei said with a gloomy gaze. The 4 elders nodded slightly and shot out, using their respective divine artifacts and heading towards the center of the battle. After witnessing Juoan's extraordinariness, the 4 elders did not dare to be careless at all. Instead, they used their full strength right from the start. As the 4 elders entered the battle, Juoan, who had originally been on the losing end, immediately found himself in a precarious situation. The cultivators outside the demonic illusion sect could not help but shake their heads at this sight. They knew that Juoan would not be able to hold on for much longer. Thinking of Juoan's lofty words from before, these cultivators only found it extremely laughable. They knew that Juoan was just spouting nonsense. As expected, this Juoan is just here to make a fool of himself. The sect master of the demonic illusion sect has yet to do anything, and this kid is already completely suppressed. From the looks of it, this kid will be defeated before long. Some cultivators could not help but shake their heads in mockery, feeling that Juoan was just an idiot. That's not right. Look, so many demonic illusion sect disciples up there have died all of a sudden. What's that? So many swords. All of a sudden, a cultivator noticed that something was amiss and pointed at the battle above. Everyone raised their heads to look, only to see in a daze that a rusty broken sword had suddenly appeared around Juoan, who was surrounded by countless dark mirage sect disciples. Around the broken sword, there were over 9,000 ancient swords that emitted cold light. Every single ancient sword was extraordinary. The sharpness that they emitted caused everyone to tremble in fear. Juoan's robe was as white as snow. He took a step forward and stepped on the broken sword with his right foot. Suddenly, more than 9,000 ancient swords were like stars. They emitted a dazzling sword light that spread in all directions. Poochie, poochie. In just a moment, the sword light spread out like water, and a third of the surrounding demonic illusion sect disciples exploded into a bloody mist. Blood poured down like a waterfall, creating a magnificent sight. Juoan's gaze was cold as he took a step forward. Under his control, the 9,000 ancient swords were like killing machines. Wherever they passed, blood filled the air and corpses piled up like mountains. At this moment, Zhuoan was protected by over 9,000 ancient swords and had 48 demonic golden swords of no beginning revolving around him. He was also wielding a purple sword with both hands. There was no demonic illusion sect cultivator who could break through his defenses. They could only become dead souls under his sword. It could be said that this was an unequal slaughter. It was a one-sided massacre. As more and more corpses appeared, the demonic illusion sect disciples finally began to feel fear. They began to retreat, not daring to charge forward. This was because they felt that the young man before them was just too powerful. They felt that they would just be sending themselves to their deaths if they went up. As a result, some of the weaker disciples finally began to flee madly, and their numbers only increased. Unfortunately, these fleeing Dark Mirage sect disciples did not leave for long at all before being caught up by the terrifying sword light and completely minced into a bloody mist. I am willing to leave the demonic illusion sect. I swear that I will no longer be a disciple of the demonic illusion sect. I will have nothing to do with the demonic illusion sect henceforth. Finally, a demonic illusion sect disciple hurriedly swore, cutting off all ties with the demonic illusion sect. After this demonic illusion sect disciple finished his oath, he discovered to his surprise that the terrifying 9,000 ancient swords in the surroundings actually passed by him as if they did not see him at all. Many thanks. This demonic illusion sect disciple naturally knew that Zhuoan was sparing his life. After hurriedly thanking him, he immediately used an escape talisman to leave the demonic illusion sect. With this disciple setting the precedent, the other demonic illusion sect disciples all swore their oaths and left the demonic illusion sect, flying away from the demonic illusion sect. Zhuoan did not stop these demonic illusion sect disciples from leaving. Instead, he focused on killing those cultivators who were still stubbornly resisting. In less than 10 seconds, the densely packed demonic illusion sect disciples had either died or fled. They had become extremely sparse. The cultivators outside the demonic illusion sect stared at the white-clothed youth surrounded by countless sword light, their pupils involuntarily constricting as they shuddered in fear. They finally understood why this Zhuoan dared to come and clamor about destroying the demonic illusion sect. It turned out that this kid was actually so terrifying. At the same time, they also recalled that this kid possessed a supreme treasure like the heavenly domain Starry Sky Essence. Such strength coupled with the heavenly domain Starry Sky Essence. The heavenly domain Starry Sky Essence was truly too terrifying. Rumble. Suddenly, Zhuoan's forward momentum came to an abrupt halt. The 9,000 ancient swords that originally revolved around Zhuoan all froze in the air under the terrifying force of the fist. Zhuoan retreated several steps, looking at Yu Yewei with narrowed eyes. Yu Yewei stared at Zhuoan with seething killing intent, while the 4 elders who had originally been retreating breathed a sigh of relief inwardly when they saw Yu Yewei act. However, after witnessing Zhuoan's terrifying strength, the 4 elders no longer dared to underestimate this white-clothed youth in front of them. I really didn't expect that after not seeing you for more than 10 years, your strength would grow so quickly. But do you really think that you can destroy my demonic illusion sect with your little strength? Isn't that a little like the ravings of a lunatic? Yu Yewei's eyes flickered, but he was also very shocked inside. He could sense that this Zhuoan's strength was probably not necessarily weaker than his. Coupled with the heavenly domain Starry Sky Essence in this kid's body, Yu Yewei was not sure whether he could take down this kid. Great Elder, go to the Nether Hall and ask the Ancestor to come out. This kid must be killed. Yu Yewei silently transmitted his voice to the strongest of the 4 elders. The Great Elder had a long snow-white beard and looked benevolent, but his eyes were filled with ruthlessness. He was clearly not a kind person. The first elder glanced at Zhuoan, who was not far away, and nodded lightly. Then, he silently left the place. However, the Great Elder did not leave for long before he let out a scream. Yu Yewei's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly looked in the direction of the Great Elder. He saw that the Great Elder's entire body was pierced through by a long spear. He struggled continuously but could not break free. In front of the Great Elder was an old man in his 60s holding a long spear, his eyes filled with a sinister smile. This person was Zhong Zicheng. Zhuoan was fully prepared this time. He was willing to be the bait to attract Yu Yue's attention so that Zhong Ziqing and the others could seize the opportunity to kill the upper echelon of the demonic illusion sect. "Who are you?" Yu Yue shouted, but his expression changed drastically soon. This was because the moment he turned his head, Zhuoan had already attacked. Zhuoan took a step forward and more than 9,000 ancient swords fell like rain, pouring down in front of Yu Yue like a storm. Yu Yue cursed in his heart and immediately took out a scroll and opened it. Instantly, the area within tens of thousands of miles was surrounded by the scroll. Terrifying flames erupted around the scroll, instantly turning the surroundings into a world of fire. Boom. Chapter 2138. Trump cards revealed in the conference hall of High Heaven Sect. Ling Yunji stood up and looked at the guard kneeling on one knee in front of him. Is this true? That Zhuoan actually went to the Serene Illusion Sect alone. The guard lowered his head and hurriedly said, "This is absolutely true. That Zhuoan is now at the Serene Illusion Sect." When this subordinate learned of this, he immediately came back to inform Sect Master. "Sect Master, that Zhuoan going to the Serene Illusion Sect alone is simply courting death. His death is not to be regretted, but the heavenly domain star essence on him." An old man standing beside Ling Yunji said in a deep voice. Ling Yunji narrowed his eyes and coldly snorted, "The heavenly domain star essence cannot be monopolized by the Serene Illusion Sect. Let's go, bring the elder group and head to the Serene Illusion Sect with me." The white-haired old man nodded and asked hesitantly, "Should we inform Old Ancestor about this?" Ling Yunji shook his head, "No need, that Zhuoan is just an ant. There is no need for Old Ancestor to take action." The white-haired old man bowed and left. After a while, he gathered 7 or 8 people from the elder group and boarded the flying ship with Ling Yunji to leave High Heaven Sect. After Ling Yunji left High Heaven Sect with the elder group, Heavenly Demon Island on the other side of Dong Yu was also ready to set off. Moji stood in front of the group and looked at Mo Fan and Yu Shan helplessly. "Why are you two so stubborn? That Zhuoan going to the Serene Illusion Sect is simply courting death. Do you want our Heavenly Demon Island to fight to the death with the Serene Illusion Sect because of that Zhuoan?" However, Mo Fan said in a deep voice, "Father, Zhuoan saved my life. How can I sit by and do nothing when he is in trouble? Of course, if father doesn't want to mobilize the forces of Heavenly Demon Island, junior sister Yu Shan and I will go alone." Although Yu Shan did not speak, her beautiful eyes were filled with determination. She clearly supported Mo Fan's words. Moji rubbed his forehead with a slight headache, saying, "Fine, fine. I'll go with you. There's no need to send so many soldiers this time. Just bring the group of elders. We're not going to fight the Dark Mirage Sect, but to save that Zhuoan. As long as I help save Brother Zhuo, I'll listen to father's orders," Mo Fan said happily. "I've already arranged the manpower. Hurry up and board the flying ship." Demonic Barrier waved his hand, sighing helplessly in his heart. At this moment, more and more cultivators gathered around the Dim Illusion Sect, their gazes fixed on the battle at the gates of the Dim Illusion Sect. In the starry sky, a huge scroll that spanned tens of thousands of kilometers revolved around Yu Yue and the others. Within the scroll, flames surged like a volcano erupting. It was terrifying. The starry sky within tens of thousands of miles was like a world of flames. Outside the scroll, countless sword lights poured down like the Milky Way. However, although the sword lights were sharp, they were like stones sinking into the sea when they struck the world of flames. They did not cause any sparks at all. Inside the scroll, Yu Yue sneered coldly, "Don't waste your energy. This fire beacon scroll was personally refined by my ancestor. You can't break it at all. Moreover, once I use this fire beacon scroll, my ancestor will know that I'm in danger. He'll come out of seclusion from the Nether Hall very soon. You're dead for sure." Yu Yue could not help but laugh loudly at this point. His smile was filled with savagery. Zhuoan's gaze was cold. He did not care about the ancestor that Yu Yue mentioned at all. Instead, he said indifferently, "The 4 of you, attack and break this fire beacon scroll." Yu Yue's smile froze when he heard that. An ominous feeling rose in his heart. Swish, swish, swish. Suddenly, 3 black figures shot out from below Zhuoan like ghosts. They used their divine artifacts and mercilessly struck the fire beacon scroll. The originally indestructible fire beacon scroll actually trembled violently when they collided. Zhong Ziqing, who had killed the Grand Elder with a single strike, took a step forward and tossed the spear in his hand. The spear erupted with a hurricane of spear shadows that smashed heavily against the fire beacon scroll. The fire beacon scroll that was already trembling violently shook even more violently. It tottered as if it would collapse at any moment. What? 7 steps in the void sky, and 4 of them? How is this possible? Yu Yewei could not help but cry out in alarm when she saw the 3 black figures that had shot out. The 3 figures were 2 men and 1 woman. Moreover, their auras were extremely powerful, not any weaker than his. They were clearly 7 steps in the void sky. Coupled with the old man with the spear, there were 4 7 steps in the void sky besieging the fire beacon scroll. Yu Yewei was truly shocked. Their netherworld sect only had 2 cultivators who had reached the 7 steps void sky. One was him, and the other was the disciplinary elder that Zhuowen had killed. Now, Zhuowen had summoned 4 7 steps in the void sky. Even their dark illusion sect might not be able to gather such a lineup. Boom, boom, boom. The 4 of them used all their strength and continuously struck the fire beacon scroll. With a crack finally appeared on the fire beacon scroll, and the crack grew larger and larger. Yu Yewei's eyes narrowed. He hurriedly used his divine force to protect the fire beacon scroll, but he discovered that it was of no use. The crack grew larger and larger, showing signs of getting out of hand. Rumble. Finally, the fire beacon scroll completely shattered into countless sparks. Yu Yewei could not help but retreat with the other 3 elders. Let's go. Yu Yewei bellowed. He led the other 3 elders towards the nether hall in the depths of the dark illusion sect. Yu Yewei knew that only Yu Wuxi could handle the situation now. As long as Yu Wuxi came out, Zhuowen and the other 4 7 steps in the void sky experts would all die here. Swoosh, swoosh. Unfortunately, the moment Yu Yewei flew out, the 4 7 steps in the void sky cultivators chased closely behind him. Sect Master, you can't die. You must hold on until the ancestor comes out of seclusion and avenge us. Seeing Zhong Ziqing's group closing in on them, the 3 elders beside Yu Yewei showed the determination to die. They immediately turned around and summoned their respective void sky bridges to detonate them. Yu Yewei sighed softly, but his speed was not slow. He fled extremely quickly. Rumble. Unfortunately, Yu Yewei did not flee for long before a sword light came from the side and smashed heavily in front of him. Yu Yewei roared and summoned his long blade. He swung it upwards and destroyed the sword light. Then, he gloomily stared at the white-clothed youth standing in front of him. Zhuowen, a mere 4 steps in the void sky weakling dares to stop me alone? You're courting death. Yu Yewei had a belly full of anger. Now that he saw Zhuowen, he vented it all out. Yu Yewei took a step forward and quickly slashed out with his long blade, turning into dense blades of light. Chapter 2139. Yu Yewei's Deathzhuowen grinned. With a wave of his sleeve, he took out the supreme dazzling sun blade and slashed at Yu Yewei. Instantly, a blade ray that seemed to be condensed from countless suns slashed at Yu Yewei. Under this terrifying golden saber light, the densely packed saber light was split into 2 halves from the middle. It was as if the sea was split into 2 halves from the middle, revealing the land at the bottom of the sea. Zhuowen spread his torch dragon wings and followed closely behind the saber beam with a swoosh. Bang! Yu Yewei's expression changed slightly when he saw the blade ray splitting apart the dense blade rays in front of him. When the blade ray was right in front of him, he swung his long saber horizontally and smashed it against the blade ray. Yu Yewei felt as if an unprecedented mountain was pressing down on his saber. It was incomparably heavy and his knees involuntarily fell to the ground as cold sweat dripped down his forehead. What kind of weapon is that? This is not the power of a void sky divine artifact. Yu Yewei shouted as he looked at the supreme dazzling sun blade in Zhuowen's hand in fear. Zhuowen could not be bothered with Yu Yewei. His current strength was already comparable to a Void Sky 7th step expert. Without the supreme dazzling sun blade, Yu Yewei would not have been able to take him down. With the supreme dazzling sun blade, Yu Yewei was no match for Huang Xiaolong. Die. You can ask King Yama when you go to hell. Zhuoan kicked off with his right foot and silently appeared beside Yu Yewei. The supreme dazzling sun blade slowly cut through the air and slashed at Yu Yewei's abdomen. Poochie. Yu Yewei wanted to resist, but he discovered that the blade ray was suppressing him, making it impossible for him to block the attack. Bang! However, when the supreme dazzling sun blade landed on Yu Yewei's abdomen, a golden vein-shaped light emerged from Yu Yewei's abdomen and blocked the attack. Golden thread inner armor? Zhuoan was quite surprised. This golden thread inner armor was a top-grade defensive divine artifact. Normally, it would be worn at the innermost part of the armor. It was so tough that ordinary Void Sky divine artifacts couldn't damage it at all. Unfortunately, the Supreme Glorious Sunblade was not a Void Sky divine artifact, but a weapon infinitely close to a secondary sky-breaking divine artifact. Bang! The Supreme Glorious Sunblade's blade emitted a blinding golden light. Then, the golden veins that appeared on Yu Yewei's abdomen shattered. Poochie. Yu Yewei spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying backwards. A huge wound had appeared on his waist, and blood was gushing out. Yu Yewei's face paled, and his breathing accelerated as he stared intently at the golden saber in Zhuoan's hand. Heaven-crushing divine weapon, I didn't think you had something like that. Unfortunately, before Yu Yewei could finish speaking, Zhong Ziqing and the other three who had escaped from the explosion of the three elders rushed over. Then, the four of them spat out divine power from their right palms, turning it into thick illusory chains that bound Yu Yewei's limbs. Yu Yewei's cultivation was only at the Void Sky 7th step, and he had been severely injured by Zhuoan's supreme glorious sunblade. Naturally, he could only resign himself to death when restrained by four experts of the same level. Zhuoan, our ancestor is about to come out of seclusion. If you know what's good for you, you'd best not offend our Dark Mirage sect too thoroughly. Otherwise, when our ancestor comes, all of you will be finished. Although Yu Yewei's limbs were bound, he wasn't particularly afraid. Instead, he was a little fearless. This was because he sensed that the door of the Nether Hall had already opened, and Yu Wuxi was about to rush over. Yu Wuxi is nothing. He couldn't kill me when I ascended the Void Sky 2nd step, so he won't be able to kill me today either. Zhuoan walked slowly to Yu Yewei's side, the smile on his lips growing colder and colder, causing Yu Yewei's heart to tighten. At this moment, the many cultivators watching from the periphery of the Dark Mirage sect were also looking at each other, clearly not expecting things to develop to this stage. They thought that Zhuoan would be easily taken down by the Dark Mirage sect, but they didn't expect that the one to be taken down was the sect master of the Dark Mirage sect, Yu Yewei. Now, he was like a stray dog, waiting to be slaughtered by Zhuoan. The Dark Mirage sect is finished. Even the sect master has been captured alive by Zhuoan. Looks like we can't provoke this fiend anymore in the future. Although this boy has a lot of heavenly domain starry sky essence, there really aren't many in the East universe who can contend with him now that he's so strong. It's better not to look for trouble and snatch the heavenly domain starry sky essence. The eyes of the surrounding cultivators had already become wary and respectful. At the beginning, they still looked down on Zhuoan and even did not take him seriously. Now, this series of events had completely changed their view of Zhuoan, and Zhuoan had also been included in the list of ruthless people they could not afford to offend. Zhuoan, you brat, how dare you charge into the Dark Mirage sect to court death? A furious voice flew out from the depths of the forbidden grounds of the Dark Mirage sect. A sinister-looking old man leaped out and appeared not far away from Zhuoan. The ancestor of the Dark Mirage sect, Yu Wuxia, has come out. Looks like this Zhuoan is going to be in big trouble. The moment they saw the sinister-looking old man, the surrounding cultivators were in an uproar, reverence in their eyes as they instinctively distanced themselves from the Dark Mirage sect. Ancestor, haha, Zhuoan, you're dead meat. Now that the ancestor has come out, let's see what right you have to be arrogant. Yu Yewei immediately said smugly, watch your mouth. 100 slaps, there's no need to be polite. Zhuo glanced at Zhong Ziqing, who nodded. Then, he raised his hand and mercilessly slapped Yu Yue's face. The sound of the slap was deliberately loud, so that the surrounding starry sky could hear it clearly. The corner of Yu Wuxi's eyes twitched. Yu Yue was the mighty sect master of the Dark Mirage sect. Now that he was being slapped so wantonly in front of so many people, it was no different from slapping the face of the Dark Mirage sect. After 100 slaps, Yu Yue's face was swollen like a pig's head. Yu Wuxi suppressed his anger and said coldly, "Zhuoan, I'll give you a chance. Release Yue now and kill yourself in front of me, and I can spare the lives of the 4 dogs beside you. Otherwise, all 5 of you will die." Zhuoan narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, "You mean that after I release Yu Yue, I have to kill myself in front of you to atone for my crimes?" Yu Wuxi nodded confidently. Obviously, he didn't feel that there was anything wrong with what he said. Zhuoan smiled and said, "In other words, whether I release Yu Yue or not, I, Zhuoan, will still die, right?" Yu Wuxi frowned slightly. He felt that something was wrong. Yu Yue hurriedly shook his head at Yu Wuxi. Unfortunately, Yu Yue's face was swollen like a pig's head. He couldn't open his mouth at all, let alone speak. "If that's the case, why should I spare Yu Yue? Since you think that I, Zhuoan, will die, why can't I kill Yu Yue and bury him with me? Don't you think so?" Zhuoan's last sentence was directed at Yu Yue. The latter hurriedly shook his head. Unfortunately, Zhuoan didn't care at all. "Sect Master Yu, what a pity. Actually, I didn't want to kill you, but your ancestor forced me to kill you. There's no other way. I, Zhuoan, am not someone who likes to be taken advantage of. Since I'm going to die anyway, I'll just kill one to make up for it." Yu Yue kept shaking his head and wanted to struggle. Unfortunately, Song Binhong and Cao Tairan held him down. It was all in vain. Zhuoan's glorious amethyst galaxy sword had already pierced into Yu Yue's forehead. Chapter 2140. Formless array. At this moment, the surroundings of the dim Mirage sect were terrifyingly quiet. Everyone looked at Yu Yue, who had been killed by Zhuoan, and involuntarily swallowed their saliva. The dim Mirage sect's old ancestor, Yu Wuxi, was standing right in front of Zhuoan, yet the latter had killed him so openly. This showed that Zhuoan did not put Yu Wuxi in his eyes at all. Just think about it, who in Dongyu would dare to kill the sect master of a sect in front of an old ancestor like Yu Wuxi? There were probably only a few who would dare to do so. However, Zhuoan had done it openly and did not seem to care at all. He really killed him. This kid really killed Yu Yue in front of Yu Wuxi. He's really bold. This kid is done for. Although he has 4 7th-step Void Sky cultivators guarding him, Yu Wuxi is a veteran expert and is at the 8th-step Void Sky. 4 7th-step Void Sky cultivators are not enough to stop him. Uproar, clamor, and discussion rose up like a storm after the silence. "You are courting death." A terrifying roar that shook the heavens and earth exploded all of a sudden. Yu Wuxi was trembling all over, his face ashen with anger. He roared and punched out with his right palm. Instantly, the space within millions of miles around Yu Wuxi collapsed. Some of the cultivators nearby were unlucky enough to fall into the collapse and were crushed to pieces. "Master, be careful." The 4 people led by Zhong Ziqing let out a low roar, releasing their respective god powers and gathering them around Zhuoan, resisting the collapse of the starry sky caused by Yu Wuxi's god powers. For a moment, Zhuoan was safe and sound. Boom! The moment the starry sky collapsed, a gigantic hand made of divine power reached out to grab at them. Wherever the giant hand passed, the collapse of the surrounding space suddenly stagnated, as if it was afraid of this giant divine power hand. Bang bang bang! Zhong Ziqing roared, and the long spear in his hand burst out with dark light. Suddenly, the surrounding starry sky collapsed and stopped. Then, the long spear heavily slammed into the big hand, and a continuous rumbling sound erupted. The moment Zhong Ziqing made his move, Lu Manfeng, Song Binhong, and Cao Tairan all made their moves as well. They used their powers to drive their life-bound god artifacts and followed closely behind. The combined power of Zhong Ziqing and the other 3 was truly terrifying. That large hand actually stopped abruptly. You guys still don't know how big the gap is between Void Sky 7 steps and Void Sky 8 steps, right? So what if the four of you join forces? In this seat's eyes, they're nothing but clay chickens and pottery dogs. Yu Wu Sai's voice slowly came from behind the giant hand. It was ethereal and majestic. The giant hand that had stopped moving moved again, and its speed was even faster than before. The life-bound divine artifacts of Zhong Ziqing and the others were all blown away by the gigantic hand. The four of them also suffered from the backlash of the divine artifacts. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths as they were sent flying in all directions. Little bastard, besides relying on the power of these four trash, what else can you rely on? In the end, you can't escape from the palm of my hand. After Zhong Ziqing and the others were blown away, Yu Wu Sai's voice became even more ferocious. His violent divine sense landed on Zhuowen's body and firmly locked onto him. Zhuowen is finished. Yu Wu Sai is going all out. Even 4 Void Sky 7 steps powerhouses can't block this attack. It's too terrifying. The onlookers looked at the giant hand that stretched out from the collapsed starry sky and felt their minds tremble. Their hearts began to race. This was the strength of an 8 steps Void Heaven Realm expert. Zhuowen stood in the middle of the collapsed starry sky and silently looked up at the giant hand that was getting closer and closer. At this moment, Zhuowen's tiny body and the incomparably vast hand formed a sharp contrast. Everyone believed that Zhuowen would definitely die under this huge hand. There was no doubt about it. However, there were some people with keen observation who noticed the expression on Zhuowen's face. They didn't find any fear or panic on Zhuowen's face. Instead, he was as calm as an ancient well, as if victory was already in his grasp. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion resounded as a fierce white light lit up from the collapsed starry sky. It became more and more dazzling, causing many onlookers to involuntarily close their eyes. Bang bang bang! The powerful cultivators endured the dazzling white light and paid attention to everything in the collapsed starry sky. However, they only saw the white light becoming more and more intense as the collapsed starry sky began to collapse and turn into nothingness. What kind of powerful force was needed to collapse the starry sky into nothingness? Standing in the middle of the white light, the ferocious smile on Yu Wu Sai's face slowly froze, revealing a trace of confusion. The appearance of this white light was too sudden. Even Yu Wu Sai didn't know where this white light came from. Is this the doing of that little bastard Zhuowen? Yu Wu Sai frowned slightly. He took out 18 red talismans from his spiritual ring and formed a seal with both hands. The 18 talismans revolved around Yu Wu Sai, forming a fiery red defensive pattern. After taking that blow from me, this kid should be dead. How did this white light come about? Although Yu Wu Sai was very confident in his blow, he was still vigilant in his heart. Old dog you, that blow just now was just a tickle for me, right? It didn't hurt at all. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of the white light. Yu Wu Sai's pupils shrank as he discovered that this figure was Zhuowen. Not dead. Well, I'll kill you again. Let's see if you can survive this time. Yu Wu Sai snorted coldly as he stretched out his right hand. A terrifying divine power poured out like a galaxy, rushing towards Zhuowen to crush him. In the blink of an eye, Yu Wu Sai caught Zhuowen, who was in front of him. However, Yu Wu Sai quickly discovered that what he grabbed was only an image, and it was not the real Zhuowen at all. Outside the white light, Zhuowen slowly stepped out. He looked down at the ball of light with a mocking smile on his face. The king spirit stood silently behind Zhuowen. Yu Wu Sai's blow had indeed landed in front of Zhuowen, but it had been blocked by the king spirit. Chapter 2141. Yu Wu Sai in despair. Zhuowen frowned slightly and said in a low voice, merely setting up a grand formation to trap Yu Wu Sai isn't worth a drop of heavenly Dao blood. Old man Wu Qing smiled slyly and said, haha, how about this old man help you deal with this Yu Wu Sai? This Yu Wu Sai is stronger than that brat Di Ling, but to this old man, he's just nice to look at but useless. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said, deal. Great. Old man Wu Qing chuckled. With a stomp of his right foot, he entered the white sphere below. This white sphere was a powerful formation set up by Old Man Wu Qing, and inside it was Old Man Wu Sai's world. Coupled with Old Man Wu Qing's strength, Yu Wu Sai was really in for a bad time. Zhuowen's mouth twitched. He realized that he had been tricked. Before coming to the Dark Illusion sect, Zhuowen had already made a plan. He would be the bait to attract the attention of the Dark Illusion sect. When Yu Yewei and the rest of the upper echelons came out, Zhong Ziqing and the other 7th step Void Sky experts would be on standby to kill them. Di Ling and Old Man Wu Qing would stay behind. Of course, Old Man Wu Qing and Zhuowen had an agreement that he wouldn't do anything for Zhuowen, so Zhuowen only asked Old Man Wu Qing to help him set up the formation in advance. When Old Man Wu Qing agreed so readily, Zhuowen felt that something was wrong. Now, it seemed that this old man was eyeing his heavenly blood. What a cunning old man, Zhuowen muttered in a slightly displeased manner. Inside the white sphere, Yu Wu Sai's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He realized that he was trapped in a powerful formation. Zhuowen, that little bastard, actually plotted against me. This formation is really strong, even stronger than an ordinary 8th rank formation. How did this brat set it up without anyone noticing? Yu Wu Sai said with an ugly expression. Aya, I'm really sorry. This big array was accidentally set up by this old man. It was originally set up to hunt wild dogs, but I didn't expect you to run in. A lazy voice rang out. Yu Wu Sai's eyes flashed with killing intent. He stared ahead and coldly replied, "What did you say? How dare you insult me as a wild dog?" The person who appeared in front of Yu Wu Sai was an extremely short old man. His height only reached Yu Wu Sai's abdomen. Although the person in front of Yu Wu Sai was a weirdo, Yu Wu Sai didn't dare to be careless. He could feel that this dwarf old man wasn't simple. Suppressing his anger, Yu Wu Sai said solemnly, "Since your excellency thinks that this you entered the array by mistake, then this is a misunderstanding. How about your excellency let this you out?" Old Man Wu Qing shook his head and said, "Since you're not a wild dog, then I'll just treat you as a wild dog. How could I possibly let you out?" Yu Wu Sai was so angry that his veins were bulging. This dwarf old man had repeatedly infuriated him, causing him to fly into a rage. "You're courting death." Yu Wu Sai was unable to restrain his anger. With a wave of his sleeve, a terrifying divine power transformed into a flood dragon that swept towards Old Man Wu Qing. Old Man Wu Qing's lips curled into a mocking smile. He gently stretched out his right hand, and the surrounding white light formed a white halo that was as smooth as a mirror. The moment the flood dragon came into contact with the halo, it collapsed and disappeared without a trace. Yu Wu Sai's gaze instantly turned serious. He stared at Old Man Wu Qing. He knew that this old man was also an 8th step Void Sky cultivator, and his strength was even stronger than his own. This old man doesn't want to talk nonsense with you. Today, you're definitely going to die. It's best if you don't resist. Otherwise, you'll suffer more. Old Man Wu Qing said indifferently. His entire body slowly transformed into a white light and merged with the surrounding white light. Whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, the gentle white light in the surroundings suddenly became much sharper. Then, it transformed into a terrifying attack. It was like countless raindrops, pouring down on Yu Wu Sai's body. Zhuowen silently stood outside the white light. He frowned and said, "Old Man Wu Qing has already been inside for an hour. Why hasn't he come out yet? Could something have happened to him?" The Emperor Spirit shook his head and said, "Master, don't worry. Old Man Wu Qing is very powerful. He's much stronger than an 8th step Void Sky cultivator. Although Old Man Wu Qing might not be able to kill Yu Wu Sai if he were to face him head-on. However, Old Man Wu Qing is relying on a formation that's infinitely close to a level 9 formation. Any 8th step Void Sky cultivator would be doomed if they were to fall into this formation." Zhuowen nodded. His gaze returned to the white sphere below. Suddenly, he saw a figure slowly walking out. Zhuowen focused his gaze. Wasn't this figure Old Man Wu Qing? Old Man Wu Qing slowly walked over. In his hand was Yu Wu Sai, who looked like a pile of mud. "I'll leave this person to you. This old man has already removed the Void Sky Bridge from his body." He's no longer a threat to you. Old man Wuching unceremoniously threw Yu Wu Sai to Zhuowen's feet and said indifferently. Zhuowen looked at the lifeless Yu Wu Sai. He kicked Yu Wu Sai, but Yu Wu Sai didn't react at all. His face was ashen as if he was already dead. If Zhuowen hadn't sensed that Yu Wu Sai was still alive, he would have thought that this guy was already dead. He knew that although Yu Wu Sai wasn't dead, his heart was already dead. This was no different from being dead. After all, Yu Wu Sai was a dignified 8th-step void sky cultivator. He was also the ancestor of one of the 10 great sects, the Dark Fantasy sect. He had supreme authority. Now that the void sky bridge was destroyed, he was completely crippled. He didn't have much lifespan left. This blow was no different from killing him. At this moment, old man Wuching rubbed his hands and said, "Little guy, according to our agreement, take out a drop of heavenly Dao blood." Zhuowen looked speechlessly at the shifty-eyed old man Wuching. He could only take out a drop of heavenly Dao blood and give it to him. After old man Wuching obtained the drop of heavenly Dao blood, he was naturally overjoyed. He took the drop of heavenly Dao blood and walked to the side. He didn't plan to pay any attention to Zhuowen. At the same time, the dazzling white light finally faded away, revealing the scene of the empty starry sky. There was nothing in the starry sky. A white-clothed young man stood in the middle. This white-clothed young man was Zhuowen. The instant they noticed Zhuowen, an uproar arose in the surroundings. They didn't expect that Zhuowen was actually still alive. After seeing Zhuowen, they naturally couldn't wait to search for Yu Wu Sai. However, they quickly discovered that they didn't need to search because Yu Wu Sai was right beside Zhuowen's feet. At this moment, Yu Wu Sai's expression was unfocused. His clothes were ragged, and his body was covered in injuries. He looked like a beggar. What shocked everyone even more was that the aura on Yu Wu Sai's body was extremely weak. He was like a candle in the wind. Then, an even more shocking scene occurred. Zhuowen lowered his head and glanced at Yu Wu Sai. Then, under everyone's gazes, he unceremoniously kicked Yu Wu Sai's chest. Poochie. Chapter 2142. Big words. Everyone was dumbstruck, as if they had been petrified. Looking at Yu Wu Sai, who had been kicked to the ground, their hearts filled with complex emotions. No way, what happened in that white light just now? How did Yu Wu Sai end up like this? Everyone was in an uproar, their hearts filled with doubts, unable to figure out how Yu Wu Sai ended up like this. However, they all knew that Yu Wu Sai had lost in the end, and at the hands of Zhuowen at that. Considering all this, the onlookers all maintained a certain distance from Zhuowen, not daring to approach him, as if Zhuowen was some kind of plague. "Master, how should we deal with this Yu Wu Sai?" the Emperor Spirit quickly asked. "Don't kill him yet, take him away first, I still have some use for him," Zhuowen ordered. The Emperor Spirit nodded, grabbed Yu Wu Sai's collar, and lifted him off the ground. Yu Wu Sai's eyes glazed over as he did not resist at all. Su su. Suddenly, 2 streams of light flew over from the distant starry sky. Everyone saw that these 2 streams of light were actually 2 huge flying ships. These 2 flying ships were extremely large, far more magnificent than ordinary flying ships. They were definitely not something an ordinary force could possess. It's the flying ships of High Heaven Sect and Heavenly Demon Island. It seems that these 2 sects have also received the news and rushed over. Everyone looked over and saw that the insignia on the 2 flying ships belonged to High Heaven Sect and Heavenly Demon Island respectively. Zhuowen slowly raised his head, his gaze falling on the 2 flying ships as a thoughtful look appeared on his face. Heavenly Demon Island's flying ship was a step ahead and blocked the path of High Heaven Sect's flying ship, forcing it to stop. The door of High Heaven Sect's flying ship opened and Ling Yunji led the group of elders down with a gloomy look. Glaring at Heavenly Demon Island's flying ship with an extremely hostile look, he said, "Moji, what is the meaning of this? Does your Heavenly Demon Island want to become enemies with my High Heaven Sect?" The cabin door of the Heavenly Demon Island flying ship opened, and Mo Chi walked down with Mo Fan, Yu Shan, and the higher-ups. He said calmly, "Yo, so it's Brother Ling. Just now, I didn't control the flying ship properly, and accidentally steered it off course. Please don't take offense, Brother Ling. Hearing this perfunctory excuse, Ling Yunji was so angry that his face turned ashen. He said coldly, "Then can Brother Devil step aside now? I still have some matters to attend to at the Serene Mirage sect." Devil Barrier shrugged, and said, "I also have some matters that I need to take a look at the Dark Mirage sect. Why don't Brother Ling come along?" Ling Zhiyun suppressed his anger and did not waste any more words with Mo Ji. Instead, he led the group of elders in a detour towards the Dark Mirage sect. The demon repellent was neither anxious nor annoyed. Instead, he quietly followed behind Ling Yunji's team. However, when they approached the Dark Illusion sect, they discovered that the Dark Illusion sect was terrifyingly quiet. Apart from the city outside the sect, there was not a single person in the sect. At the same time, a heavy smell of blood surged over. The mountainous piles of corpses and the ruins of the sect all indicated that the Dim Illusion sect had been through an unimaginable battle. What's going on? Which force ambushed the Dim Illusion sect? Ling Yunji's eyes flickered as he muttered to himself in surprise. Although Ling Yunji had mainly come for that Zhuoan, and he had also noticed the nearby Zhuoan, he did not feel that Zhuoan possessed the strength to reduce the Dim Illusion sect to such a wretched state. Little bastard, just what has happened to the Dim Illusion sect? You'd best tell me the truth. Otherwise, this old man will grind your bones to dust and die without a proper burial. Ling Yunji finally turned his attention to Zhuoan. He laughed savagely and shot towards Ling Yunji. Father, Mo Fan looked rather anxiously at Devil Barrier beside him. Devil Barrier sighed softly and could only act, stopping Ling Yunji. Devil Barrier, what do you mean by this? The Dim Illusion sect has already been reduced to such a state. It must have been destroyed by some unknown force. This Zhuoan was present and definitely knows something. Why are you stopping me? Could it be that your heavenly Devil Island is also involved? Ling Yunji said coldly. However, Devil Barrier said indifferently, Sect Master Ling, you still need to have some basis to speak. Otherwise, you're just slandering others. Ling Yunji had a cold smile on his face. Just as he was about to say something sarcastic, Zhuo Wen, who was not far away, slowly walked over to Mo Ji's side. Senior Mo Ji, thank you for your kind intentions. Leave the matter of old dog Ling to me, Zhuo Wen said with a smile. Zhuo Wen knew that Mo Fan and Yu Shan definitely had something to do with the demonic repellent helping him. Although Zhuoan did not have much contact with Mo Fan and Yu Shan, he knew that the two of them valued kindness greatly. Back then, Zhuo Wen had saved the two of them. The two of them were like a drop of water that should be repaid with a gushing spring. This caused Zhuo Wen to be quite surprised. At the same time, he also had a good impression of the heavenly Devil Island. Hey! Zhuo Xiaoyu, Ling Yunji is not easy to deal with. He is the sect master of the High Heaven sect, and his cultivation has reached Void Sky 7 steps. In addition, the elders around him are also very strong, and the weakest is at least Void Sky 4 steps. You! Devil Barrier looked at Zhuoan with surprise. He had checked Zhuoan's aura and found that it was only Void Sky 4 steps. What he meant was to remind Zhuoan that he was not strong enough. Ling Yunji and the others were very strong, and he was not their opponent. Although Devil Barrier also noticed Di Ling and the others not far away, Di Ling and the others did not actively release their auras, so Devil Barrier and Ling Yunji did not pay much attention. Mo Fan and Yu Shan also hurriedly came over to persuade Zhuo Wen. They promised Zhuo Wen that their heavenly Devil Island would definitely protect him. This made Zhuo Wen not know whether to laugh or cry. Brother Mo, Yu Shan, this Zhuo understands your good intentions. As Zhuo Wen spoke, he pointed to the ruins of the Dark Illusion sect and continued, the Dark Illusion sect was destroyed by me. This High Heaven sect can't be stronger than the Dark Illusion sect, right? I think I can still deal with it. As soon as these words came out, the faces of Devil Barrier and the other Heavenly Devil Island cultivators stiffened, and they looked at Zhuoan with strange gazes. Ling Yunji, on the other hand, laughed out loud and said, how shameless. With your Void Sky 4 steps cultivation, it's not even enough to fill the gaps between the Dark Illusion sect's teeth. How dare you talk about destroying the Dark Illusion sect, The people of High Heaven sect laughed wantonly, completely ignoring the strange expressions of the surrounding cultivators. This was because they had seen Zhuowen destroy the Dark Illusion sect with their own eyes. Brother Zhuo, this joke is not funny, Mo Fan spoke up, and he was quite angry. This time, he was the one who urged Zhong Mo to come and rescue Zhuowen, but now, Zhuowen actually said such shameless words. This was simply not taking their rescue seriously. Yu Shan furrowed her brows. She stared at Zhuowen and found that the latter did not seem to be joking. Her beautiful eyes glanced at the ruins of the Dark Illusion sect, and her brows furrowed even deeper. Brother Zhuo, just as Mo Fan was about to continue speaking, Yu Shan suddenly reached out and stopped him. Chapter 2143. Apologize. Yu Shan shook her head and said, I think what Brother Zhuo said makes sense. He's not an impulsive person. Mo Fan gradually calmed down. He looked at Zhuowen and moved aside to block Zhuowen's body. However, he was still angry and did not look at Zhuowen. Zhuowen shook his head helplessly. He knew that Mo Fan did not believe he had the power to destroy the Dark Fantasy sect. However, all of this would be destroyed when Zhuowen showed his strength. Ling Yunji also heaved a sigh of relief. What he was most worried about now was the Heavenly Devil Island interfering. Now that Zhuowen said he did not need Sky Demon Island's help, Ling Yunji's wish was fulfilled. Zhuowen and Ling Yunji's hatred was no less than that of the Dark Fantasy sect. Ling Yunji's son, Ling Zhuo, had been killed by Zhuowen during the interplanetary tournament. Even if Zhuowen did not have the Heavenly Domain Star Essence, Ling Yunji would not let Zhuowen go. Little bastard, where did you get your confidence from? How dare you say you can destroy the Dark Fantasy sect? Ling Yunji laughed coldly. King Spirit, slap this person 1,000 times, Zhuowen said to the King Spirit. The King Spirit, who had been keeping a low profile, did not make a sound and slowly walked over. A powerful aura that could penetrate the heavens and the earth suddenly erupted, filling the surroundings of the starry sky and setting off a starry sky storm. The smile on Ling Yunji's face froze, and he stared at the King Spirit that was approaching him with fear. 8 steps of the void sky. Ling Yunji's lips trembled. He had only just realized that there was such a powerful person here. Could the destruction of the Dark Fantasy sect have something to do with this person? Ling Yunji was completely confused, and he did not even notice that the King Spirit was following Zhuowen's orders. At the same time, Ling Yunji also noticed that the King Spirit was holding an old man in a green robe. The green-robed elder's eyes were empty and lifeless, as if he was an emotionless puppet. Ling Yunji wasn't unfamiliar with the azure-clothed old man because the azure-clothed old man was none other than the ancestor of the Dark Illusion sect, Yu Wuxi. The moment he recognized Yu Wuxi, Ling Yunji's whole body started to tremble, and his legs went soft. He also noticed that Yu Wuxi's aura was extremely weak, no different from that of an ordinary person. This was obviously a sign that the illusory sky bridge had been broken. The King Spirit's presence was so strong, and Yu Wuxi had been crippled. It was a shock to Ling Yunji, and he didn't want to fight back. Even Yu Wuxi had fallen at the hands of this person. How could Ling Yunji, a mere 7 steps void sky, be a match for this person? Ling Yunji hurriedly lowered his head and cupped his fists, saying with a flattering smile, "Senior, I really didn't expect you to be so strong." Even the ancestor of the Dark Mirage sect, Yu Wuxi, was crippled. You're simply unparalleled. As for the group of elders that Ling Yunji brought with him, they naturally followed Ling Yunji's lead and stood trembling behind him. Unfortunately, the King Spirit turned a deaf ear to his pleas and stopped in front of Ling Yunji. The people of Sky Demon Island quickly moved away from the King Spirit, their eyes full of fear and respect. Mo Fan even pulled Zhuowen away from the King Spirit. Zhuowen did not refuse, and he smiled as he followed Mo Fan. Zhuowen's command had been through voice transmission, so only the King Spirit could hear it. Ling Yunji raised his head and quickly bowed to the monarch spirit with a flattering smile. Slap. Unfortunately, the King Spirit did not appreciate his kindness, and it slapped him again. Ling Yunji's right cheek was swollen, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The King Spirit had used a lot of force to slap his face. Ling Yunji was submissive, but he did not dare fight back. Ling Yunji had lost all will to fight, especially when he saw Yu Wu Sai's crippled body. He thought of the king's spirit as a peerless elite, and he knew he couldn't fight against such an elite. He didn't dare fight back. After all, if he did not fight back, he would still have a chance to live. If he fought back, he would definitely die. Slap slap slap. After the first slap, the king's spirit continued to slap Han Sen's face, and the sound of the slap continued to be heard. The king's spirit didn't hold back. Every slap was a real slap. Thus, such a ridiculous scene appeared in the starry sky. The sect master of High Heaven sect, Ling Yunji, lowered his head and allowed a middle-aged man to slap him. After 1,000 slaps, Ling Yunji did not look like a human at all. His cheeks were swollen and bruised, and it was impossible to recognize Ling Yunji's original appearance. The surrounding cultivators could not help but laugh, but because of the force behind Ling Yunji, they all held back their laughter. Ha ha ha. Sect Master Ling, what are you doing? Look at your current appearance. Take a piss and look at your reflection. How did you become like this? If I were you, I would have killed myself after being humiliated like this. Zhuo Wen laughed loudly, mocking and ridiculing Ling Yunji without any scruples. Originally, if Ling Yunji did not take the initiative to look for Zhuo Wen really did not plan to cause trouble for High Heaven sect for Ren Yong'an's sake. Unfortunately, Ling Yunji did not know what was good for him. He actually ran into the muzzle of a gun and called Zhuo Wen a little bastard. Now, it was a tragedy. Little bastard, just you wait. When this senior is done, you're finished. You're dead. Ling Yunji glared at Zhuo Wen with a gloomy look, and shamelessly boasted ruthlessly. Unfortunately, as soon as Ling Yunji finished speaking, the king's spirit coldly snorted and slapped Ling Yunji in the face. This time, the force was so great that Ling Yunji was slapped to the ground. Ling Yunji was confused. He looked at the king's spirit in confusion and said, "Senior, this junior did not mean any harm. If this junior has done anything wrong, please tell me and this junior will do as you say." The king's spirit looked at Ling Yunji indifferently and finally opened his mouth. He pointed at Zhuo Wen and said, "Then crawl over there and apologize to my master." As soon as these words came out, Ling Yunji nodded repeatedly, but soon he realized that something was wrong. Following the king's spirit's finger, he saw Zhuo Wen with a mocking look in his eyes. He was dumbfounded. Not only Ling Yunji, but Mo Fan, Yu Shan, Mo Ji, and the others from Heavenly Demon Island who were standing beside Zhuo Wen were also petrified. "Junior sister, is there something wrong with my ears?" That senior from Void Sky 8 Steps seemed to call brother Zhuo master. Mo Fan opened his mouth and suddenly asked Yu Shan who was next to him. Yu Shan nodded slightly stiffly and said, "I thought I was the only one who heard wrong, but it turns out that you also heard wrong." Mo Ji, on the other hand, hit both of their foreheads and said, "Is there something wrong with my ears too?" "You didn't hear wrong, that senior did call Zhuo Wen master." Speaking of this, Mo Ji looked at Zhuo Wen with a slightly complicated expression. He finally began to believe that Zhuo Wen's words were not just empty words. A mere Void Sky 4 Steps had a servant at Void Sky 8 Steps. In addition, Zhuo Wen had a large reserve of Heavenly Domain Star Essence. Zhuo Wen did indeed have the power to destroy the Dark Fantasy sect. If the Dark Fantasy sect was really destroyed by Zhuo Wen, then this Zhuo Wen was too terrifying. He was definitely not someone to be trifled with. "Senior, are you joking? That Zhuo Wen is just an ant at Void Sky 4 Steps. How could he be your master?" Ling Yunji wanted to explain, but unfortunately, the king's spirit gave him another slap. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he said, "Are you not going to apologize?" Chapter 2144. The sound of the wind crawling in front of Zhuo Wen, Ling Yunji lowered his head, his eyes filled with humiliation. "Leader Ling, why don't you raise your head?" Zhuo Wen looked down at Ling Yunji in front of him and said indifferently. Ling Yunji was shaking with anger, but he could feel the murderous intent of the king spirit behind him. He sighed and slowly raised his head. Boom! In the instant that Ling Yunji and Zhuo Wen's eyes met, a sharp dagger emitting a misty white mist appeared in Ling Yunji's hand. It cut through the void and fiercely stabbed towards Zhuo Wen's neck at an extremely fast speed. Watch out! Moji's face changed, and he wanted to stop the attack. Unfortunately, Ling Yunji was too close to Zhuo Wen. Moreover, this move was too sudden and too fast. The demonic repellent was unable to react in time. Mo Fan and Yu Shan's faces changed drastically. King Spirit, on the other hand, was surprised, but he wasn't too worried. Whoosh! The speed of the dagger was extremely fast, and the rising mist instantly covered the figures of Ling Yunji and Zhuo Wen. The surrounding people could not see what was happening inside the mist. Within the mist, Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed slightly. He immediately took out the ice lotus that emitted a threatening cold aura and placed it in front of him. Pang! When the dagger hit the ice lotus, it was instantly frozen by the ice lotus. Even Ling Yunji's right hand was completely frozen by the cold air. What? Ling Yunji's pupils shrank. He didn't expect Zhuo Wen to have such a terrifying ice lotus. A moment of carelessness and he fell into the trap of this ice lotus. Especially when he discovered that this cold chi was actually spreading along his arm to his entire body, Ling Yunji let out a low roar and immediately cut off his right arm before explosively retreating. As the mist dissipated, everyone saw Zhuo Wen standing motionlessly in the same place with a crystal-clear ice lotus floating in front of him. Ling Yunji, on the other hand, was in a sorry state with one of his arms broken, constantly retreating. King Spirit, Zhuo Wen said coldly to the King Spirit, who was standing not too far away. The King Spirit nodded and took a step forward, appearing in front of Ling Yunji in an instant. He threw a punch at Ling Yunji's chest, and the King Spirit's fist was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. Ling Yunji's left hand took out a cloud from his spirit ring and used it to block the attack. Pang! The King Spirit threw a punch at the cloud, but it was surprisingly soft. The force of his punch was reflected back into his right fist. It was as if he was punching water, and there was no way for him to put his strength into. The King Spirit grunted and took out his halberd, thrusting it forward. The clouds were tough, but the King Spirit's halberd was not to be trifled with. The tip of the halberd shone with a sharp light as it pierced through the clouds. Ling Yunji was caught off guard, and his entire body was pierced through. The King Spirit twisted his right hand, and a raging energy exploded across the surface of the halberd. Then, the cloud dissipated, and Ling Yunji spat out a mouthful of blood. "How dare you attack my master? Do you want to die?" the King Spirit said. Ling Yunji threw caution to the wind and sneered, "Do you really think I, Ling Yunji, am a fool? Do you think I don't know Zhuo Wen's character? So what if I apologize to him? I'm still going to die anyway. If I'm going to die anyway, I might as well die with him. It's a shame I didn't manage to kill that little bastard." The King Spirit looked at Zhuo Wen coldly and said, "Master, what should we do with this man?" "Kill him." Zhuo Wen's indifferent words made everyone around him tremble in fear. The King Spirit nodded, and without hesitation, he gripped the halberd with his right hand. Countless halberd phantoms erupted, and Ling Yunji, who was hanging from the halberd, screamed in agony. His whole body was torn to shreds, and he was dead. Sect Master. The group of elders brought by High Heaven Sect all showed looks of fear and immediately fled in all directions. Unfortunately, these elders did not manage to escape very far before they were intercepted by Zhong Ziqing's group of 4. Under Zhuo Wen's signal, they were all dealt with. At this moment, the surroundings were silent. For everyone, Zhuo Wen's approach was extremely overbearing. First, he destroyed the Dark Illusion Sect, then he destroyed the team from High Heaven Sect. However, Zhuo Wen had the strength to destroy the Dark Illusion Sect, so he was not afraid of High Heaven Sect. "Brother Zhuo, what's going on? I'm a little confused." Mo Fan looked at Zhuo Wen and found that the white-robed young man in front of him gave him a strange feeling. There was no doubt that Zhuo Wen's return had a huge impact on him. The King Spirit who followed Zhuo Wen was a master at the 8th Void Heaven stage, and the auras of Zhong Ziqing and the others were no weaker than his father, Mo Ji. They were obviously at the 7th Void Heaven stage. As for the short dwarf old man not far away, his aura was even more unfathomable. He was probably not an ordinary cultivator. It could be said that the team Zhuo Wen brought back this time was too strong. Yushan's beautiful eyes looked at Zhuo Wen in confusion. Obviously, she didn't expect that after Zhuo Wen returned, such an earth-shattering change had occurred. Moji's eyes flashed and he smiled warmly. Zhuo Xiaoyu, do you want to come to Heavenly Demon Island? Zhuo Wen smiled. He knew that Moji wanted to build a good relationship with him. However, since Moji had helped him before, Zhuo Wen did not intend to reject his good intentions. Seeing that Zhuo Wen had agreed, Moji was quite happy. Zhuo Xiaoyu will come with me to the flying ship. Do you want to come with us? Moji smiled warmly. At the same time, his attention fell on the king spirit and the others. We will go wherever master goes, the king spirit replied indifferently. Zhong Ziqing and the others nodded, obviously agreeing with the king spirit. Old man Wuqing, on the other hand, rested his head on his hands and said indifferently, let's see what Zhuo Xiaoyu can do. Moji warmly invited Zhuo Wen and the others into the flying ship. At Zhuo Wen's request, he took all the resources of the demonic illusion sect and left. The people of the demonic illusion sect looked at the flying ship that was gradually disappearing, and the quiet atmosphere was immediately broken. They were all discussing what Zhuo Wen had done just now. The name Zhuo Wen was destined to shine in Dongyu, and even the Starfield. The death of Ling Yunji and the Elder Group soon spread like wildfire to High Heaven Sect. Ling Binbing was the old ancestor of High Heaven Sect, and his cultivation was at the 8th step Void Heaven realm. Ling Binbing, who was in seclusion, had no choice but to come out. The sect master of High Heaven Sect and the Elder Committee had been wiped out, so how could he, the old ancestor, remain in seclusion without doing anything? However, after Ling Binbing heard the rumors in the outside world, he did not look for Zhuo Wanqing to denounce him. This king needs to leave for a while. During this time, the sect must keep the defensive array open. Otherwise, this king will come back with your heads as an apology. Chapter 2145. Magatama. After Ling Binbing left Dongyu, Moji and the others brought Zhuo Wen back to Heavenly Demon Island. Moji was quite enthusiastic and personally arranged a first-class room for Zhuo Wen and the others, even arranging beautiful maids for each room. Zhuo Wen, on the other hand, chatted with Mo Fan and Yushan for a while before returning to his room. When he returned to his room, the Thunder Fire Sword came out. Xiao Hei sat on its hilt and said solemnly, "Boy, you killed Ling Yunji and the others, so High Heaven Sect's old ancestor Ling Binbing probably won't let this go, right?" Zhuo Wen nodded and said, "I know about this, and the news of me destroying the Dark Illusion Sect should have reached Ling Binbing's ears, so he won't act rashly for the time being." Xiao Hei frowned slightly and looked at Zhuo Wen in confusion. "You said for the time being? You mean Ling Binbing will still come and make a move on you?" Zhuo Wen grinned and said, "Of course, the sect master was killed and the elder group was destroyed. This is definitely a great shame for the sect, so Ling Binbing won't let it go easily." "You mean Ling Binbing will call for reinforcements?" Xiao Hei frowned. Zhuo Wen nodded and said, "If I'm not wrong, Ling Binbing has probably already left High Heaven Sect, but since I've already guessed it, I naturally won't let Ling Binbing leave just like that." Saying so, Zhuo Wen got up and walked out of the room. "Boy, where are you going?" Xiao Hei asked in surprise. To High Heaven Sect, Zhuo Wen smiled slightly, but not long after he walked out of the room, a stalwart figure blocked Zhuo Wen's path. This person didn't look old and was dressed in black. His black hair danced in the wind and his eyes glowed with a scarlet light. Seeing Zhuo Wen come out, this person grinned at Zhuo Wen with a demonic aura. "You are?" Zhuo Wen asked as he looked at the demonic youth in front of him with some surprise. "Heavenly Devil Island's Magatama." The demonic youth smiled. "Magatama?" Zhuo Wen's pupils constricted. He was no stranger to this name. Moji had mentioned it to him before. He was the patriarch of Heavenly Devil Island. He didn't expect Magatama to suddenly visit him. "So it's Senior Magatama. May I know why Senior has come?" Zhuo Wen cupped his hands and asked. Although Zhuo Wen looked calm on the surface, he was extremely vigilant in his heart. The Heavenly Devil Island was considered the strongest of the 3 major powers in the Eastern universe, and it was also one of the top 10 sects. He could feel that this Magatama was even stronger than Yu Wuxi. It's nothing, this Mo just wanted to go to High Heaven Sect with Zhuo Xiaoyu. Magatama smiled. Zhuoan furrowed his brow and asked coldly, were you eavesdropping just now? Magatama waved his hand and said with an embarrassed smile, it's a misunderstanding, I wasn't eavesdropping, I just accidentally heard it. However, I have to remind you that High Heaven Sect's defensive spirit array is not weak, and I happen to be very familiar with it. Are you interested in cooperating with me? What benefits do I get from cooperating with you? Also, you shouldn't be cooperating with me for nothing, right? Zhuoan asked with some vigilance. Magatama grinned and said, if High Heaven Sect is breached this time, I will only take 20% of High Heaven Sect's resources, but I also want 10 drops of Heavenly Domain Star Essence. How about it? Zhuoan narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, I want 90% of High Heaven Sect's resources, and I can only give you 5 drops of Heavenly Domain Star Essence. Although this Magatama's strength was not bad and was also at the Void Heaven 8th step, Zhuoan had the protection of Old Man Wu Qing, a master at the peak of the Void Heaven 8th step, so he really did not fear Magatama. Magatama frowned slightly, but then smiled and said, good, then let's have a pleasant cooperation. Let's set off now. Zhuoan said. Magatama nodded and said, then come with me. Heavenly Demon Island's airship is ready to go. I want to add in the masters around you. As long as we break High Heaven Sect's defensive spirit array, High Heaven Sect will be fish on the chopping block. Magatama led Zhuoan out of the sky above Heavenly Demon Island, and only then did Zhuoan discover that a dense number of combat airships had been arranged around Heavenly Demon Island. Zhuoan took a deep look at Magatama. He knew that Magatama had long planned to destroy High Heaven Sect after learning that he, Zhuoan, had the strength to destroy Dark Illusion Sect. As long as High Heaven Sect was destroyed, Heavenly Demon Island would dominate Dongyu and enjoy most of the resources and business, which would definitely be of great benefit to Heavenly Demon Island's future development. Zhuoan did not say anything about Magatama's scheming. After all, the two of them were on the same page in dealing with High Heaven Sect. In the team, Zhuoan also saw the organizer, Mo Sho, who obviously also saw Zhuoan and smiled kindly at Zhuoan. Zhuoan did not see Mo Fan and Yu Shan. Obviously, Mo Sho did not intend to let them participate in this operation. Let's go. After Zhuoan, Magatama, and the others entered the main airship, Magatama gave the order to set off, and a dense group of airships swept through the starry sky like locusts. At the border of Dongyu, there was a huge transmission array. Ling Binbing walked over slowly, his gaze falling on the transmission array as he sneered and whispered, this Zhuoan is really amazing. He actually brought a Void Heaven 8th step master with him this time. It seems that this boy has a big secret. I don't believe that the old fogies of the other starfields won't be interested in this boy. As long as those old fogies come, this boy's time of death will come. Ling Binbing was actually quite wary of Zhuoan. Of course, it was not that he did not consider the possibility that Zhuoan might attack High Heaven Sect. However, their High Heaven Sect's defensive array was a peak grade 8 spirit array, and an ordinary Void Heaven 8th step cultivator might not necessarily be able to break it. After all, Zhuoan's foundation was too shallow, and Ling Binbing did not need to wait too long to invite those old fogies through the transmission array, so Ling Binbing left High Heaven Sect without worry. What Ling Binbing did not expect was that Heavenly Demon Island would cooperate with Zhuoan. If he had known, he would not have left High Heaven Sect without permission and gone to other places in the starfield. Just you wait, Zhuoan, you little grasshopper, you won't be able to jump around for long. Ling Binbing muttered to himself as he planned to jump into the transmission array. However, there was one figure who was even faster than Ling Binbing. This figure was one step ahead of Ling Binbing and arrived at the transmission array. Then, this person wielded an incomparably huge halberd and smashed it against the transmission array without any hesitation. Then, under Ling Binbing's dull gaze, the ancient transmission array collapsed inch by inch, shattering into countless pieces. You dare destroy the ancient transmission array? You court death. Ling Binbing's face was livid with anger as he roared angrily at this figure. Immediately after, he took out a huge scythe and blasted it towards this figure without any hesitation. The scythe was extremely sharp, and the moment it cut through the starry sky, the nearby stars all exploded. An invisible sharp aura surged and gathered around this figure, as if it wanted to completely crush him. Boom. The figure swung the halberd in his hand, and the violent astral winds caused the surrounding space to distort, forming a starry round shield. It actually blocked all the dense and sharp chi forces. After a series of explosions, this figure finally revealed his true appearance. It was a middle-aged man with an indifferent expression. "Who are you?" Ling Binbing's gaze was solemn as he looked at this middle-aged man and asked. Chapter 2146. Cooperation. The moment he heard the name Zhuoan, Ling Binbing had a bad premonition in his heart. In High Heaven sect, Ling Binbing had heard rumors that Zhuoan had an 8-step void sky slave. At first, he didn't believe it, but now he had no choice but to believe it. This little bastard actually guessed this king's whereabouts. Ling Binbing slowly calmed down and stared coldly at the Emperor Spirit. "From the looks of it, you've only just broken through to the 8-step void sky. Do you think you can stop me? Where did Zhuoan go? Tell him to come out too." The corners of the Emperor Spirit's mouth curled into a mocking smile as he said, "It's enough to stop you. As for Master, he has already gone to High Heaven sect." Ling Binbing's gaze changed slightly, but soon he sneered, "He doesn't even have an 8-step void sky slave with him. This boy can't break through High Heaven sect's grand array." "Oh, what if Heavenly Demon Island's Magatama and its fleet are added in? Do you still think you can't break through High Heaven sect's grand array?" The Emperor Spirit sneered. Ling Binbing's expression changed drastically. He didn't expect Heavenly Demon Island to also want to get involved. What's more, Magatama was the strongest 8-step void sky cultivator among the 3 great forces of Dongyu. Because the 3 great forces of Dongyu were in a competitive relationship with each other, each of them knew the weaknesses of their respective sects' grand arrays. Now that Ling Binbing was not in High Heaven sect, the grand array was much weaker than usual. With Magatama and Heavenly Demon Island's forces, High Heaven sect's grand array would not last long. "I have to go back quickly." Ling Binbing stomped his right foot, intending to return to High Heaven sect. Unfortunately, a large halberd pierced through the air and nailed itself in front of Ling Binbing. A powerful halberd phantom swept over like a storm, forcing Ling Binbing to retreat a few steps. "You can't go back yet," the Emperor Spirit said indifferently. "You caught death." Ling Binbing roared angrily and slammed his right palm into the starry sky. Instantly, his divine power swam like a dragon and transformed into a variety of illusory weapons around him. Each of these weapons exuded a peerless radiance. The terrifying weapon shadow set off a storm, and the halberd shadow in front of it was instantly torn apart. The King Spirit was not afraid of Ling Binbing. Although he had just reached Void Sky 8 levels, he had a lot of heavenly star essence. He could fight Ling Binbing with all his might. The purpose of the Emperor Spirit this time was to delay Ling Binbing. After Zhuowen completely destroyed High Heaven sect, the Emperor Spirit would come to join him and take down Ling Binbing. Inside the flying ship, Zhuowen held the ice lotus in his right hand. With a thought, the petals on the ice lotus fell off and attached themselves to Zhuowen's body, forming a crystal-clear ice armor. At the same time, the petal of the lotus seat was like a praying mat, quietly floating under Zhuowen's feet, lifting him up into the air. Through the lotus seat and lotus flower, Zhuowen discovered that the laws of the surrounding starry sky were within his reach. "I really didn't expect this ice lotus to not be used for defense, but mainly for cultivation. By cultivating with this ice lotus, one can actually directly touch upon the laws of the universe." Zhuowen slowly put away the ice lotus, a look of joy appearing in his eyes. The ice lotus was obtained from the Dark Spirit sect's forbidden area, Nether Hall, where Yu Wu Sai was in seclusion, when he wreaked havoc in the Dark Spirit sect. Now that Zhuowen had returned to this place and destroyed the Dark Mirage sect, Yu Wu Sai had also become his prisoner. As for the true use of the ice lotus, Zhuowen had naturally obtained it from Yu Wu Sai's memories. From Yu Wu Sai's memories, Yongkai learned that this ice lotus was obtained by chance in his early years. Because this ice lotus allowed one to directly touch upon the laws of the universe while cultivating, Yu Wu Sai's cultivation speed was much faster than ordinary cultivators. In a short period of time, he had successfully reached Void Sky 8 levels. At that time, Yu Wu Sai was the youngest of the 8 great sects to reach Void Sky 8 levels. However, after Yu Wu Sai's cultivation reached Void Sky 8 levels, the Ice Lotus did not have much of an effect on his cultivation. Even if he completely grasped the laws of the universe, it was useless because what he needed to reach Void Sky 9 levels was not the laws of the universe, but a trace of the heavenly Tao. Although the Ice Lotus did not have much of an effect on Yu Wu Sai's cultivation, its defensive power was comparable to a secondary heaven-shattering divine artifact, so Yu Wu Sai treasured this Ice Lotus very much. Back then, Yu Wu Sai had pursued Zhuowen so closely because of this Ice Lotus. This Yu Wu Sai is not simple. The other sects don't even know that he has this Ice Lotus. If Yu Wu Sai had the Ice Lotus with him, even old man Wu Qing wouldn't have been able to kill him. Zhuowen's eyes turned solemn. The defensive power of this Ice Lotus was really strong. With Yu Wu Sai's help, it would be too difficult for old man Wu Qing to kill Yu Wu Sai. Fortunately, Zhuowen had taken this Ice Lotus away, causing Yu Wu Sai to lose this powerful divine artifact. After destroying High Heaven Sect, I must enter secluded cultivation. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He now had 2 supreme treasures, the Ice Lotus and the Azure Wave-sealed realm, so he was very confident in reaching Void Sky 5 levels. Zhuo Xiaoyu, we've arrived at High Heaven Sect. Although I know the weakness of the defensive array, I still need to borrow the power of your servant. Magatama's voice came from outside the room. Okay. Zhuowen thought for a moment before agreeing. On the deck of the main airship, Magatama stood with his hands behind his back, at the front of the deck, while Mo Yi stood respectfully behind him. Zhuowen slowly walked behind Magatama, followed by Zhong Ziqing and the others silently, while old man Wu Qing leisurely strolled around the deck. Magatama turned and glanced at Zhuowen before looking meaningfully at old man Wu Qing, who was strolling around the deck, and said, "If this old man takes action, the defensive array can be broken in an instant." Old man Wu Qing shrugged and said, "This old man won't take action unless this little brat gives me a reward." Zhuowen's face twitched. How could he not know that the reward old man Wu Qing mentioned was the heavenly Tao blood? This thing would be depleted the more he used it, so he didn't want to continue wasting it. Moreover, Zhuowen didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that old man Wu Qing's aura had become thicker and more powerful than before. Although he still looked like a dwarf, he gave off the illusion of being tall and mighty. It seems that this old man used that drop of heavenly Tao blood. I'll let the 4 of them assist you. How long will it take to break the array? Zhuowen asked, pointing to Zhong Ziqing and the others behind him. Maybe 2 or 4 hours. Come down with me now. Also, Mo Yi, if those reckless disciples of High Heaven Sect dare to come out and cause trouble, kill them all. Magatama looked at Mo Yi and said. Mo Yi hurriedly nodded. Magatama nodded with satisfaction and led Zhong Ziqing and the others out of the main airship. It's Heavenly Demon Island. I didn't expect Heavenly Demon Island to attack our High Heaven Sect. What should we do? Old Ancestor has left, and Sect Master and the Elder Group have been wiped out. We are no match for Heavenly Demon Island. Chapter 2147. Elder by everyone, don't panic, Old Ancestor will soon return with reinforcements. We still have the defensive spirit array, so as long as we hide inside, Heavenly Demon Island's army won't be able to break in. A middle-aged man stood out and shouted, temporarily calming the crowd's panicked emotions. That's Heavenly Demon Island's old ancestor Magatama. He came in to break the spirit array. What should we do? He's an 8th step Void Sky Master. Suddenly, a disciple noticed that Magatama, with Zhong Ziqing's group of 4, had landed on the defensive spirit array. Attack them. The middle-aged man's face changed slightly, and he immediately arranged for people to stop Magatama's group of 5. However, the moment these High Heaven Sect disciples left the protective array, they were blasted to smithereens by Heavenly Demon Island's airships. Zhuoan jumped down from the airship and looked down at the many High Heaven sect disciples. Everyone, I have no grievances with you and have no intention of targeting you. Now, I'll give you a chance, swear to leave High Heaven sect, and I'll let them go immediately. As soon as these words came out, the many High Heaven sect disciples, who were originally filled with panic, calmed down, their eyes filled with hope. They naturally recognized the young man in white who jumped out of the main airship as Zhuoan, the one who destroyed the Serene Illusion sect. In the eyes of many High Heaven sect disciples, Zhuoan and Heavenly Demon Island were too powerful, and their High Heaven sect was no match for them. Everyone, don't be fooled by this boy. Old Ancestor will be back soon, and when Old Ancestor returns, if you leave High Heaven sect, you know the consequences. The defensive spirit array can still hold on for a while, so don't give up. A sharp voice suddenly came from the crowd, and Zhuoan turned his head and saw a familiar figure. It was an old-fashioned old man, and Zhuoan happened to have met this old-fashioned old man once before. When he first entered Dongyu, Ren Yonggan had given him a recommendation letter to become an inner sect disciple of High Heaven sect. At that time, Zhuoan came to High Heaven sect with a recommendation letter, but he was rejected by this old-fashioned old man and even threatened to kick him out. At that time, the disciple guarding the door seemed to have called this old-fashioned old man Elder Bai. Now that so many years had passed, he could still meet this Elder Bai. Indeed, enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. Elder Bai also noticed Zhuowen's gaze. His expression changed slightly and he could not help but take a few steps back. When he first learned of Zhuowen's name, he didn't know that Zhuowen was Long Wen. However, ever since he learned that Zhuowen had destroyed the Hidden Illusion Pavilion, he was certain that the young man he had rejected was the audacious and infamous Zhuowen. Back then, Zhuowen had caused an uproar in the Starfield and was a household name. Although Elder Bai was shocked by Zhuowen's actions, he did not take it to heart. After all, in Elder Bai's opinion, this Zhuowen was wanted by the 8 great sects and had no path to heaven or earth. If he was caught, he would definitely die. However, when he heard that this Zhuowen had destroyed Dark Illusion sect after returning and even their sect master had fallen at his hands, Elder Bai truly panicked. He was afraid that Zhuowen would still remember him, afraid that Zhuowen would find trouble with him, so he strongly opposed High Heaven sect's surrender. You don't have much time. After the spirit array is broken, if you still haven't left High Heaven sect, don't blame this Zhuo for being ruthless. Saying so, the murderous intent in Zhuowen's eyes was no longer concealed, causing the many High Heaven sect disciples inside the spirit array to tremble in fear. Zhuowen floated silently above High Heaven sect, the many airships behind him glaring fiercely as the High Heaven sect disciples trembled and hesitated. Time passed slowly, and soon, an hour had passed. The spirit array above High Heaven sect trembled violently and gradually dimmed, a clear sign that it was about to break. This spirit array won't last much longer. I'll give you one more chance. Swear to leave High Heaven sect and I'll let you live, Zhuowen said again. I swear to leave High Heaven sect. Finally, a High Heaven sect disciple could not stand the tension and swore loudly. With one taking the lead, there was naturally a second. Most of the cultivators in High Heaven sect put down their weapons and swore to leave High Heaven sect. Hong Long. At the same time, the spirit array was finally broken. The other disciples who were originally hesitating hurriedly swore to surrender loudly. Those who swore to leave High Heaven sect can leave now, the rest are not allowed to leave. Magatama laughed happily and immediately ordered the Heavenly Demon Island disciples to surround High Heaven sect. More than 90% of High Heaven sect's disciples had sworn to leave High Heaven sect, so they were basically let go. The remaining 10% were High Heaven sect's core disciples, who were also loyal supporters of High Heaven sect. Even if they died, they did not intend to leave High Heaven sect. This group of core disciples was wiped out by Magatama's people. Wait. When an old-fashioned old man walked out of the encirclement, Zhuowen suddenly stopped him. This old-fashioned old man had his back to Zhuowen and was trembling all over. Sir, I swore to leave High Heaven sect. I am no longer a member of High Heaven sect. Before Zhuowen could speak, the old-fashioned old man spoke first. Turn around, Elder Bai. Zhuowen said coldly. The old-fashioned old man trembled all over and could only slowly turn around, lowering his head, not daring to look at Zhuowen. Elder Bai, do you still remember the first time I came to High Heaven Sect? Zhuowen said with a smile. Elder Bai's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he knelt on the ground and hurriedly pleaded, Sir Zhuowen, this lowly one had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please forgive this lowly one's transgressions and spare this lowly one this once. Zhuowen said faintly, how do you think I can spare you? Elder Bai trembled even more violently as he grit his teeth and severed one of his arms. From now on, this arm is crippled and will never be used again. Zhuowen looked at Elder Bai, who was enduring severe pain, and could see that the foundation of Elder Bai's right arm had been severed. Even the power of the Void Bridge could not be restored. In the future, Elder Bai's strength would be greatly reduced and there would be no hope for him to break through. Zhuowen waved his hand and said dispiritedly, Scram. Elder Bai hurriedly nodded and left the place. Zhuo Xiaoyu, taking down High Heaven Sect is easier than we thought. The list of High Heaven Sect's resources is here. You can take a look at it and when the time comes, you can choose which 90% you want first. Magatama landed in front of Zhuowen and handed a jade slip to Zhuowen, which recorded all the resource reserves of High Heaven Sect. Zhuowen threw the jade slip to Zhong Ziqing and instructed him to make a decision before taking out a jade bottle from his spirit ring and handing it to Magatama. Senior, many thanks for your help this time. Here are 5 drops of Heavenly Domain Star Essence. Chapter 2148. The plan. After putting away the Heavenly Domain Star Essence, Magatama was obviously much more enthusiastic than before. Zhuowen also knew that Mo Tian's main purpose in helping him eradicate High Heaven Sect was to obtain the Heavenly Domain Starry Sky Essence. Of course, it was also because High Heaven Sect was a competing force on Heavenly Demon Island, but that was definitely not the main reason. Chem. Someone's coming. Magatama raised his head and looked into the distance where a stream of light was quickly rushing over. Zhuowen looked over and said, It's my servant. This stream of light was extremely fast and arrived at the open space where Zhuowen was in an instant, revealing the figure of the Emperor Spirit, who knelt in front of Zhuowen on one knee. Master, this subordinate was incompetent and let Ling Binbing escape, the Emperor Spirit apologized. It's fine, I sent you to delay Ling Binbing. Now that High Heaven Sect has been destroyed, Ling Binbing has escaped. Zhuowen waved his hand and said. After all, Ling Binbing was High Heaven Sect's old ancestor. His strength might not be as good as Yu Wu's size, but he must have some trump cards. The Emperor Spirit had just broken through to the Void Sky 8 steps, so killing Ling Binbing was obviously beyond his ability. Magatama's eyes flashed as he said, Zhuo Xiaoyu, you'd better be careful of Ling Binbing. That old man might go to other places in the starfield and encourage the old ancestors of other sects who have grievances with you to deal with you. Zhuowen smiled and said, Dongyu is now Heavenly Demon Island's territory. Senior Magatama, you won't let the old ancestors of other sects come to Dongyu so easily, right? Moreover, I haven't finished collecting my debt yet. Saying so, Zhuowen handed a jade bottle to Magatama. Magatama's heart moved. Even if he did not open the bottle, he knew that it contained the Heavenly Domain Star Essence. You are very bold. Could it be that you deliberately let Ling Binbing go? Magatama frowned slightly. He began to be unable to see through the white-clothed youth in front of him. I didn't do it on purpose. It's just a pleasant surprise. Since Ling Binbing has escaped, we'll just beat him at his own game. However, we'll need the cooperation of Senior and your Heavenly Devil Island. Zhuowen clasped his hands. Magatama nodded, I will definitely help you if I can. The ancestors of the other sects aren't fools. They won't make a move against the Heavenly Devil Island just because of Ling Binbing's instigation. After all, the Heavenly Devil Island is the local tyrant of the Eastern Universe. However, those old fellows will likely target you. Thus, you should be the one to be careful. Zhuowen said solemnly, Senior, your Heavenly Devil Island should also have an ancient teleportation array, right? Magatama took a deep look at Zhuowen. He had some guesses about the latter's plan. He said solemnly, "You want to lure the tiger away from the mountain after Ling Binbing summons the other senior members of the sect?" "Yes. At that time, I will destroy the ancient teleportation array. After this is over, this junior will compensate senior for the ancient teleportation array," Zhuowen said. Magatama frowned slightly but shook his head. "You can't teleport within the Heavenly Devil Island because you will drag the Heavenly Devil Island down with you. You are a loose cultivator and can escape without any scruples, but I'm different. The Heavenly Devil Island is my foundation." "Then how about this?" Zhuowen transmitted his voice to Magatama and told him his plan. Magatama, who was frowning slightly, immediately relaxed and nodded with a smile. "This plan is good. This way, the other old fellows won't be able to get anything on the Heavenly Devil Island. Then it's settled. Next, we'll see when Ling Binbing summons reinforcements," Zhuowen whispered with a sneer. The destruction of the Dark Mirage sect and the High Heavens sect shocked the entire Eastern universe and even the starfield. All the cultivators discussed animatedly, setting off a wave of excitement. At the same time, Zhuowen's name once again shook the entire starfield. More than a decade ago, Zhuowen's name had already resounded like thunder in the starfield. First place in the Interstellar System Grand Tournament, toying with the 8 great sect masters, and even wreaking havoc in the Dark Mirage sect. Everything Zhuowen did back then was talked about enthusiastically and caused a great sensation. But more than a decade later, Zhuowen returned to Eastern Universe again and directly destroyed the Dark Mirage sect. The destruction of the High Heaven sect was also due to Zhuowen's help. The destruction of the 2 great sects caused Zhuowen's reputation to reach an unprecedented height. He was also listed by many cultivators as a ruthless person that they could not afford to provoke. There were even some rumors that described Zhuowen as a ferocious and repulsive demon that was used to scare some young children. While the outside world was abuzz with rumors, Zhuowen himself was cultivating in the private room arranged by the demonic barrier on the Heavenly Devil Island. At this moment, Zhuowen was sitting on an ice lotus, surrounded by petals as he silently sensed the starry sky laws. His understanding of the starry sky laws was also becoming deeper and deeper. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes and looked at the dwarf old man sitting on the table in front of the room. He said, "Senior Wu Qing, why don't you knock every time you come in?" Old Wu Qing looked at his crossed legs and said, "This old man doesn't have that habit. Could it be that you have something that can't be seen?" Old Wu Qing cast a sidelong glance at the lotus seat Zhuowen was sitting on and smiled meaningfully. Zhuowen's gaze was calm as he put away the lotus seat. He said, "You should have seen the ancient teleportation array on the Heavenly Devil Island, right? Can you imitate the ancient teleportation array and set up a new one?" Old Wu Qing frowned and said, "I've seen the ancient teleportation array. It should be a teleportation array left behind from 1,000,000 years ago. It can teleport across most of the heaven domain. It's an extremely complicated and profound formation. I have to say that those formation masters from millions of years ago are really too powerful. The teleportation array really is very far away. Now, only a 9th level formation master can set it up, and it might not even succeed." With that, Zhuowen frowned and said, "You mean you can't set it up?" Old man Wu Qing was flustered and exasperated. "Bullshit. If we were to set up an ancient teleportation array for no reason, I would indeed be powerless. However, with this ready-made ancient teleportation array as a reference, it is more than enough to set up this ancient teleportation array." "Oh, then I'll have to trouble you, senior. I hope you can set up an ancient teleportation array here." Zhuowen grinned and took out a jade slip, handing it to old Wu Qing. The jade slip recorded the star chart of Dongyu. "You plan to set up an ancient teleportation array at the old site of the demonic illusion sect?" Old Wu Qing looked at the star chart and asked in surprise. "Yes, there aren't many ancient teleportation arrays in Dongyu. They were destroyed when the demonic illusion sect and High Heaven sect were destroyed. The ancient teleportation array at the border of Dongyu was also destroyed by the Emperor Spirit. Other than the ancient teleportation array on the Heavenly Devil Island, there isn't a second ancient teleportation array in Dongyu," Zhuowen said. Originally, Zhuowen planned to use the ancient teleportation array on Heavenly Devil Island, but this would cause trouble for Heavenly Devil Island, so Zhuowen planned to let old Wu Qing imitate the ancient teleportation array and set up a temporary teleportation array. Ordinary teleportation arrays couldn't teleport very far. Only this ancient teleportation array could cross the heaven domain and teleport cultivators from Dongyu to other places in the starfield. The starfield was too big. If he flew by flying ship, it would take at least 1 or 2 months. Zhuowen didn't have that much time. Chapter 2149. The 20th Fire. Old man Wu Qing thought for a while and nodded. Yes, but this ancient teleportation formation isn't simple. Even if it's a temporary teleportation formation, it will take at least a month. That's enough time. Zhuowen nodded. After old man Wu Qing left, Zhuowen sat in the room for a while. He then waved his sleeve and summoned a green whirlpool. For the remaining time, I'll cultivate in the Kanglan Mystery Land. If my original body can break through the Void Sky 5th step in this period of time, it'll be best. Zhuowen muttered and entered the green whirlpool. In the Kanglan Mystery Land, there were 5 figures sitting cross-legged. The 5 of them were naturally Zhuowen's 5 servants, King Spirits, Zhong Ziqing, Song Binhong, Lu Manfeng, and Cao Tairan. At that moment, Zhuowen urgently needed stronger assistance. Hence, he would naturally spare no effort in assisting the 5 of them. After all, the stronger the 5 of them were, the more help they would be to him. Especially Zhong Ziqing. He was already at the peak of the Void Sky 7th step and was only half a step away from the Void Sky 8th step. If he could successfully advance to the Void Sky 8th step in this period of time, it would be of great help to Zhuowen's next plan. Master. Seeing Zhuowen enter, the 5 of them quickly stood up and bowed to Zhuowen respectfully. After Zhuowen signaled the 5 of them to cultivate, he found a spot and took out the ice lotus to continue cultivating. At the same time, he summoned the black-clothed Zhuowen. The black-clothed Zhuowen had already passed through 18 fires. He was only 2 more fires away from becoming Real God Supreme Fire. Once he became Real God Supreme Fire, Zhuowen's fighting power would be enough to kill a Void Sky 7th step cultivator easily. He wouldn't even be afraid of a Void Sky 8th step cultivator. The Calamity Crystals are almost used up. This is the last of the reserves. Zhuowen looked at the disaster crystals that were piled up into a small mountain around the black-clothed Zhuowen and sighed. He didn't know if the last disaster crystals would be able to help the black-clothed Zhuowen become Real God Extreme Fire completely. Moreover, after using up all the disaster crystals, Zhuowen was a bit distressed. Where would he go to find more disaster crystals? Could it be that he was going to enter Zhongyu's training grounds again? He heard that since the last interstellar system great competition, the Central Universe trial ground had been closed. The cultivators who stayed in the trial ground had basically been driven out. Entering the trial ground to fish for disaster crystals was obviously not realistic. Let's use up these disaster crystals first. When the time comes, I'll ask around and see if there are any other places that have reserves of disaster crystals other than the Central Universe trial ground. The eyes of the black-clothed Zhuowen flickered. He calmed his heart, slowly closed his eyes, and began to absorb the energy within the Calamity Crystal. The demonic mist around him continued to churn. Time passed day by day, and soon, more than a month had passed. The 6 people in the Kanglan secret realm had all gained something, especially Zhong Ziqing. The aura on his body was much stronger than before, and there were faint signs of a breakthrough. Zhuowen's main body slowly opened his eyes and walked down from the lotus seat with a trace of pity in his eyes. In the past 2 months, under the interaction of the Ice Lotus and the Kanglan secret realm, his progress was actually very fast. His aura had already reached the peak of the 4th step of the Void Sky realm. However, there was still a gap between him and the 5th step of the Void Sky realm. Zhuowen knew that it wasn't because he didn't have enough resources, but because his realm wasn't high enough. After all, Zhuowen's breakthrough speed was too fast. It had only been more than 10 years since he advanced to the Void Sky realm, but he had already reached the 4th step of the Void Sky realm and pierced through the starry sky. 4 Void Sky cultivators, More than 10 years was like a snap of a finger. It was extremely short. Most void sky cultivators would need hundreds or thousands of years to break through a small realm. Some even needed tens of thousands of years. People like Zhuowen, who broke through several realms consecutively in more than 10 years, were considered rare. Of course, this was all because of Zhuowen's heaven-defying opportunities. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to cultivate so fast by relying on his cultivation alone. Whoosh! Suddenly, strong and dazzling sparks surged, and the temperature of the entire Kanglan secret realm rose sharply. In an instant, it became like a furnace. Di Ling and the other four awakened, and their gazes involuntarily fell on the black-robed Zhuowen not far away. The calamity crystals around the black-clothed Zhuowen had long since turned to dust. Even the demonic mist covering his body had dissipated, revealing the black-clothed Zhuowen's slender figure. Flames emerged from the bottom of Zhuowen's feet. These flames weren't the usual fiery red, but purple-black. They looked extremely evil. The 19th fire, Zhuowen's eyes were solemn. With a wave of his sleeve, everyone in the Kanglan secret realm was teleported out. Boom! The moment the black-clothed Zhuowen appeared outside, the surging purple-black flames were like a berserk dragon that spread in all directions. "Leave this room!" Zhuowen shouted in a low voice and left the room first. Di Ling and the others followed closely behind. After the 6 of them left the room, the huge pavilion was engulfed by the purple-black flames and turned into fine powder. The black-robed Zhuowen took a step forward and leaped into the starry sky. He sat down cross-legged as purplish-black flames stirred up terrifying gales that constantly swept out. The starry sky within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers was actually filled with the purplish-black flames. Zhuowen's strange behavior attracted the attention of many Sky Demon Island disciples. Even the leader, Mara, and the ancestor, Magatama, came out to look at the sky. "It's a fire. What a scary power. This is not an ordinary fire." Mara squinted his eyes. Magatama nodded and said, "This is the 19th fire. That should be Zhuo Xiaoyu's avatar, right? It seems that Zhuo Xiaoyu wants this avatar to walk the same path as Crepe Myrtle Star King. 3 extreme realms? Even Crepe Myrtle Star King failed. Is this possible?" Mara asked with surprise. "Who knows? The fire's power is increasing. The 20th fire is coming at once." Magatama was shocked and looked in that direction. In the sky above, the purple-black flames were twisting and collapsing. Then, above the flames, there was a giant hole. Deep inside the hole, there was a claw bigger than Sky Demon Island. The claw was huge, and its surface was covered with purple-black flames. It burned fiercely, and it had the power to cover the sky. When the claw appeared, it attacked the black-robed Zhuowen, who was surrounded by the purple-black flames. "The 20th fire is coming. That's scary." Zhuowen's real body looked gloomy. Without hesitation, he threw the ice lotus to the black-robed Zhuowen. The black-clothed Zhuowen received the ice lotus. Immediately, he held the ice lotus with both hands. The ice lotus immediately began to swell. Finally, it turned into an incomparably huge ice lotus that blotted out the sun. It was lifelike, crystal clear, and had a threatening cold aura. Rumble. The claw and ice lotus collided. The entire sky shook. The purple-black flames and the icy blue cold air rose, dividing the sky above into 2 extreme regions. Chapter 2150. Counterattack of the Great Path. Activate the Great Defensive Formation. The 20th fire of Zhuowen's clone is too intimidating. Magatama changed his visage. He leaped into the air, his hands making hand seals. Instantly, the Great Defensive Formation of the Heavenly Demon Island was activated. In the starry sky, the half-fire, half-ice world had already descended the moment the protective array was activated. It slammed into the array, causing it to tremble violently and totter on the verge of collapse. Zhuowen's real body was being protected by the king spirits, moving away from the Heavenly Demon Island. At this moment, Zhuowen's face was dark like water. Through the connection with his clone, he found that his clone wasn't in a good condition. Although the Ice Lotus's ice ability was indeed powerful, the 19th and 20th fires had caught the clone in the middle, and even the Ice Lotus was barely able to withstand them. Moreover, his clone had to endure the tremendous impact of the collision between the ice and fire energies. His bones were cracking, and they were breaking. What a terrifying impact. Seems like if the clone doesn't show his real body, he can't resist for a long time. Zhuowen sighed. In the center of the fire, the black-clothed Zhuowen faced the sky and roared. Demon mist rolled unceasingly from his body. His tiny body expanded rapidly, revealing Devao's massive body, which wasn't smaller than the heavenly demon island. Why is Zhuowen's real body so big? Is it a giant star beast? Magatama and the others had their eyes twinkling. Looking at Devao's giant body, they couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. After Devao had revealed his real body, his tough body and the cold air of the Ice Lotus had helped him resist the terrifying fire. Now, we just need to wait for the fire to subside. Zhuowen's real body stood in the starry sky, watching Devao resist the fire, his eyes twinkling. The fire had lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. When the 3rd day was about to pass, Zhuowen thought that the fire would subside. However, things didn't go as he wished. Rumble. Rumble. All of a sudden, a massive hole appeared in the sky. The giant claw created by the fire energy tore the sky, creating a hole that was dozens of times bigger than the previous one. A fire Chileen that was even more intimidating than Devao slowly walked out of the hole. Its pair of dark purple eyes gazed at Devao coldly, which made people shudder. What's going on? The fire didn't subside. How come it's getting stronger? The king spirits muttered in fright. Zhuowen's pupils shrank to the size of needles. He gazed at the giant fire Chileen and said, "This fire Chileen. It isn't the power of the starry sky, this is the power of the heavenly Tao. Although it's only a trace of the heavenly Tao's rules, it's still the power of the heavenly Tao. Little guy, where did this clone of yours come from? Why did it cause the obstruction of the heavenly Tao's rules when it passed through the 20th fire?" An aged voice suddenly rang out. Old Wuqing had appeared beside Shuo when at some unknown time. His turbid eyes were also staring at the huge fire Chileen. "Senior, could it be that you can't tell the origin of this clone of mine? His devourer from the star race." Zhuowen looked at Old Ruthless. Although Devourer was almost extinct in the 8 heavens, he knew that old monsters like Old Ruthless and Magatama who had lived for so long could recognize Devao's real body at first glance. Old man Wu Qing shook his head and said, "No, although Devourer is a strong clan in the starry sky, it's far from being devoured by the Great Path's rules. At most, it's repelled by the starry sky's rules. However, your clone is repelled by the Great Path's rules." Zhuowen was startled. According to Old Ruthless, his clone wasn't Devourer, right? "Kid, you don't need to be so shocked. Judging from the features of your clone, it's Devourer from the starry sky. However, your clone isn't an ordinary Devourer. Otherwise, how could the Great Path reject you? How did you get this doppelganger?" Old man Wu Qing seemed to have noticed Zhuowen's strange expression and could not help but ask in surprise. "I got Devao's lava by chance, so I seized it." Zhuowen smiled embarrassedly, but his heart was gloomy. When he knew that the Nti Shiva and Tai Ching cared a lot about Devao's lava, Zhuowen felt a little strange. No matter what, those two were the supreme existences of the 9 heavens territories in the void sky. Even though Devourer was a strong clan in the starry sky, it was still barely comparable to them. But now, he realized that he was wrong. Devourer wasn't simple at all. It was possible that he had something that both Sakyamuni and Tai Ching wanted. However, Zhuowen couldn't figure out what it was. Moreover, he didn't understand one thing. With Sakyamuni and Tai Ching's strength, it should be easy for them to seize Devao's clone. However, Tai Ching didn't do that. After the bet with the Nti Shiva, Zhuowen hadn't seen the Nti Shiva even once. The Nti Shiva seemed to have forgotten about him. This Devourer isn't simple. Zhuowen raised his vigilance. Previously, he was a bystander, so he didn't see Devao's difference. But now, after the 20th fire, Old Ruthless reminded him. He knew that Devourer could trigger the Great Path's power. It was unimaginable. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the fire Cheline was engaged in a fierce battle with Devour. Devour's body combined with the cold air of the ice lotus made it hard for him to defeat the fire Cheline. Moreover, Devour had released his innate ability. However, the fire Cheline had a wisp of the Great Path's principle. No matter how fierce Devour was, he was still suppressed by the fire Cheline. Kid. Let's cooperate. Old Ruthless suddenly said to Zhuowen. What? Cooperate? Zhuowen frowned. The fire Cheline has a wisp of the Great Path's principle. Although it's very small, much smaller than your Great Path blood, it can still extract the Great Path's principle. Do you dare to snatch the Great Path's principle with this old man? Old Ruthless licked his lips. Zhuowen was extremely calm. He asked, how can we extract the Great Path's blood? With the Great Path's blood as a guide and this old man's skill in formations, there's a high chance that we can extract the Great Path's principle from the fire Cheline. As long as the Great Path's principle is extracted, the fire Cheline won't be a match for your clone, Old Ruthless continued. Okay. We'll split the extracted Great Path's blood in half. Old Ruthless nodded. Then, he signaled Zhuowen with his eyes. The two of them dashed into the fire at the same time. Old Ancestor, Zhuowen, and the dwarf old man have entered the fire. In the Heavenly Demon Island, Mags noticed Zhuowen and Old Ruthless. Chapter 2151. Old Man Wu Qing makes a move. I'll cover you. Be careful. I just calculated that the trace of heavenly law is between the fire Cheline's eyebrows. You have to get close to the fire Cheline. As Old Man Wu Qing dodged the incoming fire, he took out a formation disc from his spirit ring and tossed it to Zhuowen. He continued, this formation disc can turn the laws of the heavenly Tao into corporeal heavenly Tao blood. Keep it safe. After saying that, Old Man Wu Qing leaped up. His skinny right hand pinched the air, and a 3-meter-long saber appeared in his hand. On the blade of this saber, there were vivid and lifelike drawings of fluttering bamboo leaves. When the blade slashed through the air, it actually brought along the after-images of fluttering bamboo leaves, giving people a tranquil feeling of being in a bamboo forest. If someone thought that the bamboo leaves were harmless, they would be gravely mistaken. The bamboo leaves were formed from Old Man Wu Qing's intent realm. Old Man Wu Qing's intent realm was that the world was emotionless. Anything in the world, whether beautiful or ugly, could be fatal. The bamboo leaves were even sharper and more terrifying than divine weapons. Bamboo wind profound. The moment Old Man Wu Qing rushed out, he slashed out with the saber in his hand. The bamboo leaves surrounding the saber were like a terrifying hurricane, blowing up and slamming into the fire Cheline's body. Bang! 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 The fire Cheline was originally fighting against Devour's array, so it naturally did not guard against Old Man Wu Qing. At this moment, the bamboo leaves slammed into its chest, creating a huge flaming hole. The fire Cheline was thoroughly enraged. The fire Cheline roared furiously and pushed its claws forward. Devour was pushed back several thousand steps. Then, the fire Cheline's terrifying flaming eyes stared coldly at Old Man Wu Qing. It opened its mouth and spat out a purple-black pillar of fire at Old Man Wu Qing. Bamboo wall. However, Old Man Wu Qing did not panic. He struck out with his left hand, and huge bamboo phantoms that were as tall and straight as mountains appeared in front of him. They formed a bamboo wall in front of him. The bamboo wall was penetrated by the flames, but Old Man Wu Qing had already appeared behind the fire Cheline. He slashed out with his saber, and the crescent-shaped saber light was wrapped by countless bamboo leaves. It was like the saber light of a bamboo forest swordsman. Bamboo forest blade aura. The blade light hit the fire Cheline's back, making it roar in pain. Then, the fire Cheline abandoned Devour and focused on attacking Old Ruthless. For a time, Old Man Wu Qing was in a rather difficult situation. Good chance. Zhuowen's eyes lit up. He knew that Old Man Ruthless was planning on using him as a live target to attract the fire Cheline's attention, giving him a chance to approach the fire Cheline. Zhuowen leaped into the air and unfolded the torch dragon wings on his back. His speed reached the level of shrinking the ground as he instantly landed above the Fire Chalene's head. Then, he quickly took out a white jade box from his spirit ring and opened the lid, revealing the blue blood of the heavenly way. Perhaps it had sensed the aura of the heavenly Tao blood. The Fire Chalene's body stiffened. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with joy. Taking advantage of the moment the Fire Chalene's body stiffened, he stepped between the Fire Chalene's eyebrows and unceremoniously pressed the disc formation that Old Man Wuching had given him into the Fire Chalene's forehead. Roar! The moment the disc formation entered the Fire Chalene's forehead, the latter roared in pain and swung its huge head. Zhuowen, who was standing between the Fire Chalene's eyebrows, could not help but be thrown out. At the same time, the Fire Chalene's huge beast claw ruthlessly slashed at Zhuowen. Zhuowen's gaze was gloomy as he immediately summoned the king's sword. He used the king's sword to control more than 9,000 ancient swords, forming a dense sword wall around him. Bang! 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 Unfortunately, the Fire Chalene's strength was too strong. The sword wall did not last long before it was instantly broken. Zhuowen had no choice but to use the no-beginning Devil Golden Sword to block in front of him. He even took out the supreme dazzling sun blade to deal with it at any time. But the no-beginning Devil Golden Sword was instantly broken. Instead, the supreme dazzling sun blade blocked it for 3 breaths of time. Zhuowen also used these 3 breaths of time to immediately leave the Fire Chalene's range with the torch dragon wings. However, Zhuowen's face did not look too good. Because of the Fire Chalene's attack just now, nearly 1,000 of the 9,000 ancient swords had lost their brilliance and were severely damaged. As for the no-beginning Devil Golden Sword, it was broken into pieces directly and could be considered as completely useless. Zhuowen felt that it was a pity. The no-beginning Devil Golden Sword was refined when he was a real god and it had always been handy to use. However, he also knew that as his strength increased, the no-beginning Devil Golden Sword would eventually be eliminated. However, he did not expect the no-beginning Devil Golden Sword to be eliminated in such a helpless manner. Moreover, as the no-beginning Devil Golden Sword was broken too thoroughly, even if the broken sword was repaired, its power would not be as strong as before. After keeping the broken sword, Zhuowen kept it in his spiritual ring. After all, it was his trump card back then and he was prepared to keep it. As for the 1,000 ancient swords, although they were severely damaged, they could still be restored as long as they were repaired. After all, the ancient swords were refined by the ancient sword sage king and their quality was much higher than the no-beginning Devil Golden Sword. In the starry sky, the Fire Chalene covered its forehead with its claws and roared continuously as if it had gone mad. Boom! At this moment, under Zhuowen's order, Devour stormed over and mercilessly beat the dog that had fallen into the water. Under Devour's stormy attacks, the Fire Chalene retreated little by little. The flames on its body became dimmer, like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any moment. Bang! Devour's claw hit the Fire Chalene's face. The latter screamed and fell to the ground, gasping for its last breath. At the same time, a disc array slowly flew out from the Fire Chalene's forehead. 4 drops of dark blue liquid floated above the disc array. Heavenly Path blood? Zhuowen's eyes brightened. He quickly approached the Fire Chalene and waved his right hand, grabbing the disc array. Without the Heavenly Path's rules, the Fire Chalene's power was not as strong as before. Under Devour's attack, it scattered in the starry sky. Kid, according to our agreement, you have to give me half of the Heavenly Path blood, Old Ruthless hurried over and said. Zhuowen did not say anything. He took out 2 drops of Heavenly Path blood and gave them to Old Ruthless. Then, he sized up the black-clothed Zhuowen. At that moment, the black-clothed Zhuowen's aura was much stronger than before he had survived the fire. Moreover, the black-clothed Zhuowen's eyes would often flash with the light of thunder and fire. It seemed to indicate that his body contained the 2 extreme energies of extreme fire and extreme thunder at the same time. Finally, I've reached Real God Extreme Fire. Only Real God Extreme Wind is left. Then, I'll be able to reach the 3 extreme realms. Zhuowen's eyes revealed joy as he muttered excitedly. Kid, you have to keep the Heavenly Path blood well. Wait until your cultivation reaches Void Sky 8 steps. Then, You'll know how useful the heavenly path blood is to you. Old man Wuching approached Zhuo Wen and looked at the 2 drops of heavenly Dao blood in Zhuo Wen's hand with a burning gaze. Zhuo Wen shrugged and suddenly said, "What if I use the heavenly path blood now?" Old Ruthless looked at Zhuo Wen as though he was looking at an idiot. He said, "Kid, do you want to die? The heavenly path is a rule that surpasses the rules of Starry Sky. You haven't even grasped the rules of Starry Sky completely and you want to comprehend the rules of heavenly path directly. Aren't you courting death? If you think that your life is too long, you can try using the heavenly path blood." Zhuo Wen smiled embarrassedly and put the 2 drops of heavenly path blood into the white jade box. He said, "Then, let me comprehend the rules of Starry Sky thoroughly first." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,